I was impressed.
Also, by the way, as well, I said to Phil, Jackson Hastings, for Great Britain, consistency, do me a favour.
Are we on YouTube now?
Yeah.
Hello on YouTube. The millions of listeners, watchers, viewers. We are not talking about Leeds till after 7. That is the rule. We started a couple of minutes ago. We've been waiting for you to join us. Rich has been under pressure, as you can tell. He's going to have a well-earned weekend off this weekend, so we'll see how he gets on.
The seaside.
He's off to the seaside.
You can join me,
yeah. You can be joined.
Not in the press box.
What do they have to do then? So we've got some tickets for the
yes.
back.
Although nowadays they seem to let fans on the TV to do commentary.
We're in favour, aren't we? Because the governing body is giving us tickets.
Yeah, I like us. We've had a chat. We've had cleared the air talk to the Rugby Football League.
Okay.
And, we're back in their good books. So over to you, Super League now. We'll play both sides of it.
Send the bachelor's peas.
Yeah. Basically, retweet the show on Twitter, share it on Facebook, like us on YouTube, subscribe, and we'll pick a winner out sometime on Wednesday.
Okay.
And what have we got? What we're giving away?
A pair of tickets for the weekend.
Yeah.
What is?
One's playing
That's
on the wing for Batley, and the other one's playing in the front row for Fev.
Hey,
do with it what you will.
I don't think, say get your tickets now or whatever. I'm sure there'll be tickets available. But
Are you going to put a thing on the bottom of the screen?
what, live? No.
No, you can't do that. What about a video? We were going to say buy your tickets here, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind. We'll move on. Go on the Rugby League website.
Tickets have though picked up nicely. Bradford, Winners and Lee leading the way. But get there early on Saturday when it's Toronto versus Toulouse. First game on before Catalan's Wigan on Sky.
But isn't there an academy
Well,
game
yes,
on as
that's
well?
the first official game. But before that, 11 o'clock, Yorkshire Lancashire Academy, which apparently the first game was really good.
Origin 2.
Lots of top names will be involved in there, but we don't know who until they've named the 90-man squad for Super League at the weekend. And on the Sunday, because we're big fans of the women's game, Yorkshire Lancashire Academy, Yorkshire Lancashire Origin, women's Origin, 10:45. So if you've had a late night on Saturday, just stay up all night.
You'll be
roll
just coming in
yeah.
there, Ledge, won't you?
Straight to the ground.
You'll be about
Get
right.
your
all
breakfast,
night.
roll in, 10:45, kick off.
Yeah.
You can doze off later during Batley Dewsbury. I'm not supposed to say that.
And even our magazine, new issue out at
What
the end of this
magazine's that,
month.
Phil?
That'll be 4020.
Alright.
And of course,
We will be giving away tickets for Club Wembley. So
What, for the Bash? That's not very good, is it? Oh, sorry, you mean for the Cup final?
yeah, there'll be nobody there this week. But,
Well, there'll be millions of Bradford fans getting involved with that, I'm sure. We will talk Bradford Leeds after 7. Right, I've got a question, boys, that I want to ask, based on the weekend that has just gone. Have Wigan turned the corner? Because I watched most of that game yesterday, and I thought they should have won. And it raises two questions, right? Zach Harbaker should have kicked for we know that. Had they have won, or no, not even they didn't win, are Warrington big game bottlers? Is that a fair question to ask? Because they didn't play well in the cup final. They got beat in the grand final. Under pressure yesterday, they nearly threw it away, didn't they?
Well, what you saw yesterday, and yeah, I totally agree with you.
And you were there.
Wigan deserved.
You were there,
You're on my telly.
Wigan deserved to win yesterday. There's no two ways about it. And while that try was disallowed, the fantastic tackle that was, that was the moment of the game. The Thomas Dunaway tackle on
It is in the rules though. It is a knock on. That we should make that.
That's
clear.
probably why it was disallowed.
Yeah, probably that's
It's
why
just
it
in
was
the
disallowed.
terms.
Well, hold on. They said they were a knock on from Thomas Dunaway. Well, why did Wigan get the head and feed it?
Because the first knock on was from Blake Austin when he hit.
Well,
But then Lulai knocked on
anyway,
before he picked it up.
from my point of view, it was a dead set try. Anyway,
Sean Wayne thinks it wasn't true.
That was very helpful of Sean.
Yeah.
But Wigan to just to add in the fact that he thought it was the right decision why Wigan lost.
yeah,
Well,
we wouldn't have said that if he'd been still with the coach. Don't we?
Well, that's what I was thinking. All these players on the it's the death of rugby league. I think, hang on, fellas, you're supposed to be promoting the game, not kicking it in the goalies, which I thought the coverage was fine, no problem with that. But don't say that.
Yeah.
And also, if that had happened against them in the cup, they would be the first corner to say it's a knock on. Why is that try being allowed? So you can't have it both.
Yeah. It's a two-way thing anyway. But apart from that, we're talking about Warrington, and I totally agree with you. When they had the big game last year, the big game players balled it, and yesterday. And I say I was sat next.
Some would say, in fairness, I'll just jump in there before you
Yeah.
say they went to Saints and won in the semi-final. That was a big game,
Yeah, well,
and they did win.
yeah,
that.
well,
I've asked the question, and I'll use that against
Hold on,
myself.
that's semi-final. When we talk about the finals, what they've been in, the big game players bottled it. And as we know last year, from a point of view, the half-backs were totally clueless. They was boring. They didn't create anything. The kicking game was very ordinary. And even the Pearl yesterday, Ellery was having some great discussions during the game and what have you. And Ellery picked out 2 points about it. He said, "You know what's going?" He says, "The big game players here for Warrington. They're not showing up. Blake Austin was nowhere to be seen. Patton was nowhere to be seen. Chris Hill and Mike Cooper wasn't doing the sort
Cooper
of...
playing well, I thought.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing the sort of damage. And also to the big man.
Darryl Clark was good.
And yeah, Clarkey was good. It's, if you let him play, he'll rip you apart. But also to the big man, Big Murdoch, Tika Masilla. You know, realistically, he's supposed to come off the bench and make an impact.
He's been struggling recently. I've noticed
he made
a few people
absolutely
have been
no
commenting about
impact whatsoever. So it is a worrying factor for when the big games come around. Yeah, semi-final time, that's okay. But then when you look at them in the silverware, same problem as last year. The big game players went missing.
What struck me again, which won't come as a surprise to anyone, was that when Sean O'Loughlin is on the field, Wigan are just a completely different team. He was absolutely magnificent.
Immense.
They had to take him off towards the end and then introduce him, for the last 5 minutes. If they could have got just a little bit more out of him physically, they would have won that game. He was in absolutely everything that struggling sides that we'll talk about later don't have at the moment. But just every pass he gave was a telling one that put a player into space.
Yeah.
Every tackle he made absolutely creased the person in two that he was tackling and gave a lift to all the guys around him. He was. I can see why they keep him in cotton wool. I can see why they'll pick some games for him to play in that meant a lot, and that one of those would have been yesterday. If he could have just got 5 more minutes out of Sean O'Loughlin, I think we're going to win.
But also,
if Zach Hardy could have kept the ball in a touch,
exactly.
would have
But also,
had a better chance.
Well, again, what was it, about 15 minutes they didn't see the ball after that.
But also as well, again, myself and the Pearl, we said, from a point of view from Wigan's performance yesterday, and when you look at that squad, and the question we were saying to each other was, why are Wigan? Why are Wigan in the position what they are? When you look at it inconsistent what they've shown all season.
So they don't
It's a head scratcher, isn't it?
They don't
It's a
have
head
enough
scratcher.
big game players.
Well, I'll tell you what,
At the moment.
when you look
But-
at it.
Well, I
But
got hammered last week, and I think you did as well, Phil,
I
by
did.
Wigan fans, because we said, they're not consistent. People saying they've won 3 games on the spin. I think I said, we'll come back when they've beaten Warrington a couple of times and beaten Catalan next week. They didn't win, but
They look
cup
different.
finals are fine margins, or cup games are fine margins, and it was a fine margin why they didn't win.
Oh.
I, as a Wigan fan, I'd go away from that probably being more
Yeah.
optimistic
Without a
than
doubt.
I have been all season.
If Wigan make the 5, you wouldn't bet your bottom dollar that Wigan won't go all the way to the grand final.
Well, we keep talking about big games and knowing how to win big games.
Yeah,
Now,
they know to do
if
it.
you look at recent history in our game,
Yeah.
the only teams that win big games are Leeds and Wigan.
Correct.
Pretty much. Castleford had a go, they
Absolutely.
bombed out. Ulkar got to a cup final.
Hull had a go years ago.
Yeah, Hull, so we've won 2 cup finals, but in Super League they've not got to the grand final.
But they bombed 2 semi-finals.
Yeah, both of them they've gone off thinking we should have won today.
Correct.
Well, I think our good friend Bilko tweeted today the astonishing fact that of the 2 big trophies that are available, Leeds and or Wigan have been in every final since 2006.
Well, what does that tell you?
That says
Yeah,
everything.
what does
doesn't
that tell you? So, I think it's a valid point about Warrington. It's a question I've still got. They've been wobbling a bit, and all right, they were great early on. They don't have to be great now. They need to be great ultimately, probably for 2 games, 3 games at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But I think the question is there to be asked, and I think if you're going to play them in a big game, you're thinking we can get into these.
After the game yesterday, because the Challenge Cup draw was done in there, and we was in the Legends Bar behind the sticks, and when it was, and the Warrington fans were coming to me, and they were in agreement yesterday that Warrington were lucky to win. They were lucky to win, but at the end of the day, fellas, a win's a win. They're in the hat, and they say they got lucky on the quarter final. So the players won't be complaining, will they? But yeah, the fans do themselves. But hey, listen, they're in the hat. Simple as that.
They've got some very, very good players who made a significant difference individually. I thought Ratchford again. He's prone to an error, but the good things came from him.
I think his consistency has gone up.
Yes.
His bad game, and he used to throw in his stick, and he still will. All players, Gary will say, all players do. I think his bad games are getting a lot further apart now. I like him, Radford.
But I thought he was one of the difference between the teams, but there wasn't a lot, and you just wonder. have they fully got over losing 2 finals last year? Is there still a psychological scar
Maybe there
there
is.
in
Maybe
knockout
there
matches?
is. Maybe there is. I don't know. And pressure when you're expected to win.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, the likelihood is they're going to be at home in a semi-final to get to Old Trafford. So whoever they're playing will be the underdog.
Yeah.
That's when you can handle pressure on them.
Spoke to Kevin Brown as well yesterday and asked him how he was doing. He said he's coming on very well and he's lucky to be back sometime in July.
Well, if
Do they have to give their money back?
Deregister
him,
Yeah.
I can there. I mean, that'd be interesting.
Or is he deregistered, is he?
Well, they
Right.
They got
applied for
dispensation.
dispensation, but they've not used it, have they? So they might not have gone through with it.
Yeah. But he reckons,
Well, there's talk that Ryan Atkins might be leaving.
Yeah, I understand.
At
I
the
know for
same
a
time,
fact.
Kevin Brown may be coming back. So.
I know a couple
But
of.
he'll be like a new signing. If he comes back in July from there at the business end of the season, he'll be like a new signing, won't he?
Where would you play him instead of Declan Patton?
Oh yeah, no two ways about it. Yeah.
Interesting. Let us know what you think, Rich. You've been quiet. You all right, pal?
Yeah,
I'm a bit
well,
worried
no,
about you. You're a bit- come on,
I'm
what's
annoyed.
wrong?
I'm
You're
annoyed.
Ooh.
Because
His gander is up.
hashtag
Right, okay.
people are idiots.
Where is that cup? Has someone nicked that as well?
No, we've got a new cup.
Oh,
we'll
right.
talk about it in a bit as well.
Thank you for
Yeah,
our
tacklecount.com.
new mug.
Yeah.
There's a mug.
Yo, why are you looking at me? Why are you
What?
saying that?
Gary, that is not for you.
We've got a new mug. And you're the old one.
You're the big mug. That's the little one.
That's
I'm-
can,
I'm
I,
being-
can I take that home for a week?
Only if you promise to wash it up.
Dual Reggie.
Can you, can you, right, well, I know we're talking about Leeds after 7.
Yes.
I sent a tweet earlier about Bradford because the papers have gone early today, I think.
Yeah, go on then.
It's League Express.
Bearing in mind you said Leeds would win by 50 last
I did, I was only time I want Leeds to win them.
Richie, you said 50, well I said 30, and look at the
Yeah,
stick I got, and
yeah,
you only
but
got
you
stood by
can't call
Cowley.
it fame, I'm just
And then you
working on the
compounded
internet.
that by saying that we're going to lose by 30.
Bulls creating something special headlining League Express today. And I said, I see we're going with the Bradford the back narrative with slightly more evidence, brackets 1 match, than Zach's back then. They were good on Saturday, but the Bulls need to remain financially stable, forget beating a poor Leeds side. I don't think there's anything wrong with that statement. I don't think there's anything particularly negative about that statement against Bradford. And yet I'm getting loads of stick, including from media managers of clubs in League One.
Is that not the same media manager that said something derogatory about Scully at one point?
He's only interested in the negative side of the game and dragging the sport down. That's why I was at Wakefield versus Fev yesterday.
Winning.
Yeah, well it is.
Yeah, you know, I've got nothing. My negativity is not about Bradford. I want that. Look, I'll say. I was thinking about this the other day. If they can get crowds of 10,000 every week, Bradford would be a much better fit in Super League than say Huddersfield and Salford and even my team Wakefield. There you go. I'm going to say my team. I'm not biased here.
What?
And here's the thing though, if they want to be in Super League, they've got to win their way in there. Because we got rid of franchising and licensing because people didn't like it. Would Bradford be perfect in Super League if everything was run correctly? Yes. But let's not go after 2 seasons
What
and say they're
Saturday
perfect
was,
now.
Saturday was an indicator to anybody who runs Super League these days exactly what they are missing out.
It was also an indication of less is more.
Absolutely.
If that was the 5th time
Because
Bradford had played
yeah,
Leeds
of
this year,
course.
there would have been 4,000 there
Yeah.
like every other cup tie.
Yeah.
So let's not kid anyone.
Absolutely.
You know, there was a
rarity
great crowd.
value.
It was the perfect draw for Bradford.
It
Financially, they've sold the tickets well. There were little Leeds fans at Wales.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, great atmosphere,
Especially when
brilliant.
it's on the telly.
But
You know,
it is a
it's not
perfect
seen
example of less is more.
Yeah.
Well, right,
You
will
know,
there
if
be 10,000 when they play Halifax on the telly in a few weeks?
Well, that's going to be an interesting one, isn't it?
So that's not-
if
that's not
you're-
negative.
The next thing that Bradford need to do to capitalise on what was unquestionably a wonderful day for the club on and off the field, what do they do next? Because the likelihood is, even if they get to the semi-final of the Challenge Cup and beat Halifax at home, for which again that's such an even game, you wouldn't want to pick a winner at this stage, especially if they've got to play each other this weekend. Are they more likely to capitalise on the fans who clearly came back if they were to get to the final of the 1895 Cup rather than the Challenge Cup? They were to be able to say, let's go to Wembley, let's take the Bradford Bull flag, moniker, shirt.
That'd be great for the club.
'Cause
It'd
it's
be
really
great for the
difficult for
city
them
as
now,
well.
isn't it?
I don't think
I-
anyone would
I-
be bothered. It's the second competition.
No, I think you're going to
It'd be
Wembley.
great. Like,
You're
you go
going
to
to
Wembley in a competition you can win. You know, you look at the Football League trophy.
Absolutely.
Sunderland Portsmouth,
Absolutely.
85,000 people went. It's Division 3, if you like, football.
Yeah.
They're not bothered. football. They want to go watch the team win at Wembley.
So I,
The Bulls fans, yeah, they will go.
I think they should target the 1895 Cup as the next really big day on the horizon,
Well,
where they could win a trophy at the National Stadium and take
What-
those 10,000 fans with them.
Here's an example of why people don't listen to what I say or what any of us say.
Oh,
Jay
go on.
says, just don't make you dislike the Bulls. I've just said they'd be a perfect fit for Super League.
he does dislike him.
Yeah.
But there's no hiding. He does like
This is
him.
not like,
But he's not.
you wanna,
It's
if
not
you don't
an
want
agenda.
opinions, don't,
Yeah.
go listen to everyone else's
I,
podcast when they
I
have
think
one.
we've always had an issue with the way the Bulls were reformed.
Because it's
And
nonsense.
the decision to keep them in the Championship and the
Trading off the name.
not enough acknowledgement that if you're saying that something's been liquidated, it's actually still there.
That's what I'll be honest.
Exactly
I'll be
the
honest. I didn't go on Saturday for that reason. I couldn't, and I said this on the thing. I'll never go watch them again. I'm a Bradford lad, and I hope they do well. But because of that, I'll not go. And it's nothing against the people. I hope they make it work. I really do. I don't agree with what happened, and that's it. I'll not go. And I was even at 1:30. I was thinking I might go, and I thought, no, I'm not going. I don't want to go. It's not. No, not for me.
And
That's
we
my
need to,
opinion.
we need to rest smarter as well. We look at we're bad image,
Oh,
bad image for rugby league.
Yeah,
Bad image for rugby league. You
image.
go watch the other programmes that are an even worse image for rugby league. But then again,
Are you alright? Are you alright?
Oh, can I just say my favourite Larry
What's
sorry.
wrong with Arnatani?
Just wait a time.
Well,
Just
Score was looking
Just
quite
because
smart
mine's
today.
from the 70s, and he's got proper shoes
I
on
mean,
today.
Yeah, he looks smart.
Oh.
In fact, this is probably the
Oh,
smartest
oh,
we've ever
oh,
been.
some of this smart pants and shoes.
Breathing a bit.
You know what I mean. I must admit the humble pie I've been eating all week, and these 32s are nipping, I'll tell you. The humble pie.
Yeah,
I'm
but
into it.
you must have had that much. You only needed a gallon of custard to get it down, wouldn't you?
Oh man.
I don't want to say it's easy to get a letter in the League Express letters page, having done it a few times. But well done to David Bright of Northampton. Listen, what's that thing called in Private Eye? Where they,
Coleman balls.
no, is it Brown Nose's Corner or something?
Oh,
Or
right.
is it Viz? I don't know. But David Bright of Northampton, who says, just a quick note, on the RL Backchat programme is broadcast every Thursday on Free Sports TV. Congratulations on the producers of the show for the range of opinion we have seen on the programme so far this year. In my view, it is the best Rugby League discussion programme on the airways. That's David Brown of Northampton. Right back Rugby League Backchat in the Rugby League Express, the sponsors and producers of Rugby League Backchat.
My guess is David will be a guest. Isn't it?
Oh,
it's
come
open.
on,
We're
calm
glad
down.
they've moved out. We've got more room now.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Well, it's only banter.
Is it?
Does that still work these days? Or
I
is it-
don't know.
Okay.
Anyway.
I think
Hats off to Coventry Bears.
Yes, go on then.
They won.
We're going all around the. All
Well,
around
I think
the-
we're paying tribute to Hull KR. We're paying tribute to Wigan. I think we need to mention Huddersfield in the same vein as Wigan. I thought put up an absolutely superb performance against St Helens. But
Can I?
one
Just,
of the
can I
results
raise?
of the week,
All right. We'll go to Coventry in a minute.
Coventry
Right.
Bears.
The Giants worked themselves. They worked hard.
They did.
Right.
They never allowed Saints to run away with the game.
No, they didn't. But
three or
I
four
also
times
think on
like
another day, if Saints had wanted, they would have won by 30. I thought they should.
Do you think
I was saying to him,
overplayed? They overplayed. So.
I just thought, what are you know, I mean, I like it. I like a bet on the handicap. I'm thinking, hang on, what's going on here? They were, for me, they never looked like losing. Honestly, it was tight because Saints were loose, very loose.
St Helens' performance yesterday, as you mentioned, there was never in doubt that they was going to lose that game. But yesterday's performance were like, you know, when you're at home and you turn the tap on and turn it off, turn it on and turn it off. That's exactly what St Helens. That's all their performance was yesterday. When it's time, all right, if we go behind, when it's time to turn the tap on, we'll do it, and then we'll turn it off, and we just. You know, we're just going through the motions. We just can't wait until the 80 metres is over. That's
yeah,
what
They
that's
were almost
that's
trying
all it was.
to over-entertain. If we can put in another 3 passes before we score, we will.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean,
When you talk,
I was
I
watching
thought-
it thinking, what are you doing?
well,
here,
when you talk about
I
that
thought
when you talk about
Huddersfield
lacklustre, that performance from St Helens, after what about the first 5 minutes, or certainly the first 10 minutes, when they went to the right hand side with Makinson and the ball, did you see the pathetic attempt of Makinson trying to get the ball? I thought, oh Tommy, you're the golden boot winner, you're an international. Boy oh boy, I tell you, your grandson could have made a better effort from that. But that's what it was. It was a turn on, turn off, turn on,
But
turn
I thought
off performance.
Huddersfield deserved credit for
It was.
sticking in there.
All it costs
they
it,
could
the
have,
way
they could have easily
Phil,
been
all it costs the way
submerged.
St Helens played.
I thought
Well,
there's some backbone to them.
Yeah, I'm not saying there wasn't, right?
I tell you what, Joe Wardle had his best game for the club yesterday.
Yeah, he played
I
well.
thought he played well.
He played well, but someone in the media criticised Wakefield for losing too many close games. Well, Huddersfield are now falling into that category, aren't they? They lost by a point last week to half a team Wakefield. They got beat, all right, by the best.
I
team
just
in the
thought they
competition.
could have been submerged by 30, and the fact that at the end they were still in the game, I thought was a credit.
Yeah, look, I can't argue with that, but
No,
I just
thought
am like
they
you,
were-
Gary. At never any point am I thinking, they're going to win here. It was just like they were like that, just holding them off, weren't they? Holding them off, and then they got there. They went, oh, we'll score again.
You see, when you talk about Huddersfield from there, Phil, and also the way that they can't win big games. That try what Naguama scored, when they put the bomb up, there was 5 Huddersfield players around that ball. So you're telling me, and these guys are full-time professionals, these guys are at it twice a day, these guys know each other. There was, one of them just said, my ball, I made a challenge for it. It was just, again, when you talk about effort and commitment and enthusiasm, there was no purpose in it whatsoever. And how soft was that try?
I thought there was a spirit there. And I think Simon Wolford said after the game that he thought that was their best goal line defence performance in the season.
Well, the crowd, what about the crowd? They've given 3,500, there were never 3,500
6 o'clock on a Saturday night.
Never 3,500 there. Well,
And on the telly.
Quite a good following from Saints, wasn't there?
good following from Saints, but as far as Huddersfield fans were.
But anyway, Coventry were good.
41-30.
Yeah.
Big win
Yeah,
over
Saints.
Workington.
What are Workington going to do now? Sack the coach?
Well,
They've lost him.
what we do know is
They
though,
need to.
what we do know is we can categorically state none of the players underperformed or didn't turn up because they were on
Protesting.
slightly on price because that was
Fallacious.
Hey, what about
I
London
thought that
Scholars?
was something
Hey, we've got to say, well,
The
London
Scholars,
Scholars, they're second. London Scholars, they're second.
League One should be on telly.
Yeah.
John's been on. He says, I know you don't normally do birthday wishes, but I'm sure all the panel Phil knows where this is going. But I'm sure all the panel wish Charles Douglas Lawton, one of the great English coaches, a happy 75th birthday today.
Well, not quite all the time.
3/4.
Just you got a majority. You got a majority.
Yeah, not even
Happy
50.
birthday, Doug.
Yes, happy birthday.
Are you still on your house, bro? Go quiet to my left.
Move on.
You're back in the room.
It was good to see.
Has he been hypnotised in a previous life when someone said Doug Lawton and he just goes...
It was good to see you in close relationship with Ellery yesterday on the telly, because all the myths that used to go around that the two of you didn't get on.
Well, it's a complete myth.
Yeah.
Complete myth.
Not that there aren't any myths in rugby league anymore at the moment.
The only worrying thing about that is it was Ellery that told us you don't get it.
It's a bit harsh. No, a complete myth.
Yeah. You don't have to be the same sort of personality, but that doesn't mean you don't admire, respect, and get on with somebody.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's good. It's good.
Apologies for the sound quality on YouTube. Due to technical issues beyond our control.
What are you doing?
Because we usually
What
don't.
does that mean? We have to talk louder?
No.
You might need to just turn up the volume. Have you done that?
I don't know what to do on your phone. So I should have put the mic in, but we didn't have time. Do you know the exciting news about the transcript this weekend? He says reading from a press release. I tell you what, I've got to.
1.1 million people watch Leeds and Bradford, which is a huge audience.
Well,
But only 2 million watched the whole weekend.
Yeah, but that's good about it. The RFL have helpfully, I'll show this to the camera, you can't see it, highlighted the bit they want us to get over, which is very, very good of them, because I'm not a journalist, so I need to be told. Confirmation of the quarter-final schedule, which I'll come to in a moment, comes after a 6-round weekend which produced the highest aggregate attendance for this stage of the competition since 2008, with the Bradford-Leeds tie attracting the best match gate in the last 16 since 2015. That's positive news.
Well, well done both to the Bulls fans and the Leeds fans. Well done to the pair of them.
Who drew the last round out? Because they should have drawn this round out. It's not quite as exciting. But Thursday night on the telly, on Sky, Hull FC versus the Catalans Dragons.
I think that is going to be an interesting game. I don't think people underestimate it. I mean, those, as you just say, the last two teams that have won the cup, but arguably you would say the most likely prize for either of those two to win this year.
Stringy Bob not happy. Hardly going to bring any French fans over. Was going to go as neutral, but can't get there from work. It's on the telly though, Stringy Bob. Friday, Hull Cow versus Warrington. Sky just moved the cameras.
Somebody had to be on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saturday, the prime slot. Not as you see people saying the BBC have chosen their game as Halifax Bradford's the prime slot. No, the prime game is Saturday on BBC One because on BBC One, rugby league is full of misinformation. Saturday, June the 1st.
What, like players who have or haven't signed contracts?
Well, we'll come to that as well, won't we? Yeah. Saturday, June the 1st, St Helens versus Wakefield Trinity, a repeat of their 1979 Challenge Cup semi-final, widely regarded as one of the greatest of all time. Don't know if it was or not. No, wasn't born, but I'm told they had a good finish. We won, that's all I know. 3:15 live on BBC One June the 1st, and on June the 2nd...
June the 1st, is that Champions League Day?
Yeah.
It's on
Yeah,
What
it's
time
yeah.
does that come?
Yeah.
Is that a nation?
Yeah.
Good, perfect
Sunday.
appetite.
Sunday.
Joshua fights down all that day. Have you seen that boxer? He's fighting Joshua.
He makes you look like an athlete. That
Honestly.
Is he a big one?
He looks like, you know Oliver Hardy? He looks like the fat one out of Oliver Hardy. Honestly.
Oliver and Hardy, that's very
Pathetic.
that.
Isn't it? It's pathetic.
And
Honestly.
you, Greg, already. No,
Yeah.
Bradford Bulls versus Halifax, Sunday, June 2nd, 2:45, live on BBC Two, followed by semi-final draw. So there you go.
Good stuff.
So that's it. That is the TV coverage. All 4 games on the telly.
And are you going to explain to us what happens if it's the same two teams in the 1895 Cup?
Right. The RFL have also confirmed the implications
Yes.
of the progress made by Bradford and Halifax in the Coal Challenge Cup on the arrangements for the 1895 Cup. I don't think have got the sponsor now, by the way. The new knockout competition for championship. Both clubs will play their second round 1895 Cup ties, Bradford at Barrow and Halifax at home to Sheffield, on the Wednesday following the Challenge Cup quarter-final, brackets June the 5th. So there'll be a big crowd up in Barrow, all the Bradford fans going up on
Barrow will be a bit gutted about
Yeah.
that, won't
Yeah.
they? No,
Yeah.
no,
Do the beanbag, do the beanbag.
Or they might think we've got a better chance of winning if...
Don't know. Yeah, right.
If Bradford or Halifax reach the semi... Right, hang on.
Yeah, well, if a man which said
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not running ahead. If either of them reach the semi-finals of both the Coal Challenge Cup and the 1895 Cup, that's not sponsored, we should get a flyer in there, which are scheduled for consecutive days on July 27th and 28th, their 1895 Cup semi-final will be put back to the following Wednesday, July the 31st, providing a second chance to reach Wembley if they lose the Challenge Cup semi-final. If Bradford or Halifax become the first lower division team to reach the Challenge Cup final in the competition's 123-year history, it's true. Their place in the second 1895 Cup semi-final will be taken by the losers of the first semi-final. This is like the rules of 3-2-1. Where's Ted Rogers?
What's that quiz
It's the
with
big-
Victoria,
it's the big-
Torren?
Only Connect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that,
no,
that's
this is
the
more
clue in
3-2-1's
that. That's a- yeah.
more than Only Connect. The winners of this get Dusty Bin.
Yeah.
Dusty Bin's going to
So
be
you
there.
get a loser's chance if
Hey,
Bradford
also, by the way,
I think-
as we had Catalans who reached Wembley last year,
Yes.
Bradford and Halifax gets the final. Will they be asked to put a bond in for next year?
I think they'd both be well supported. I've no doubt about that.
Yeah, but what you know what I'm saying. They're not
It is-
expected,
it is
they're
the
not
question.
they're not expected to get anywhere near the semi-finals.
Here's the
Never
question
mind,
then.
never mind knocking on the
One
door.
of them is
2
going to
minutes
get
away
to
from
the
Wembley.
semi-final.
Yeah, one of them's
Right, one of them's
semi-final.
going to get to the semi-final.
Yeah,
Great for them.
yeah.
Fantastic.
What do you do if
Part of
you're
a
in,
big event at Bolton?
what do you do if you're in the semi-final on a Wednesday and you draw Saints in the cup? You think,
That's what I'm
I
saying.
might not beat them.
That's what I'm saying.
So what do we do on Wednesday when we're playing whoever? I don't know, who's,
Yeah.
whoever.
Yeah.
I think
Dewsbury.
we might win that one.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So
They should target the 1895
what do
Cup
we do here?
because
Go on.
you incrementally get events and better.
Andy has said they should have made the 1895 Cup a final between the two highest placed championship brackets and low division clubs that have the best one in the cup. So this year's final would be again Bradford versus Halifax, unless
That's all being said because they've got where they are.
But it's just an add-on competition for the sake of having an add-on competition.
Well, I just
In the
don't.
way it's been
again,
set up this year,
it's
without being
it's
negative.
incredibly unusual. There will
Apologies.
be a championship club in the semi-finals of the Challenge
Yeah.
Cup.
Yeah.
And they were
Let's
trying
go.
to give them the second opportunity to get to Wembley, but
Yeah.
Apparently we've got a Wigan loving going on in the show tonight. But it's to make up for last week when we criticised for signing them off. Says
it's
Tony.
not a lovely.
You do realise why we actually won yesterday. What is it with this Wigan loving? Get over it. Just play better than we expected them to.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I was actually disappointed Warrington didn't beat them by more personally, but you know that's just the opinion, and they didn't. And I thought Wigan, from what I saw,
Yeah.
it's almost the game.
What's
I thought
important-
Wigan should have won.
What's important, I think, is that the next huge event we've got in our calendar is in Barcelona on Saturday evening.
It's a summer bash on.
I got an invite, you know, and I can't go. I got invited. I got
You're
invited,
everywhere
and
this
I can't
Go
go.
back.
Well, I'll tell you later.
That's good.
Is it
But
Senor? I don't know what the Spanish is for wood.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Oh, it wasn't the full hospitality of Mashing.
No, yeah, it wasn't too bad, yeah.
But what-
It's going to be having it. I'll
The
tell you.
worry was that 2 or 3 weeks ago, Wigan would have been going into that game and we'd have been worried whether it was going to be the contest that we want to show off to the people of Catalonia. And I think now it will, on the basis of what we saw from Wigan this week, which is better than anything they'd produced in the previous 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I think a lot of people were going anyway. To be
Yeah,
fair to
but
Wigan
it-
fans,
it's
booked
not,
it anyway.
it's not
they
the
were
Wigan
going.
fans that are going, it's not the
Yeah,
Catalonian
yeah.
fans, it's the fact that I think you'll get, unlike perhaps the Magic weekend, where I think we're now going to struggle for neutrals because Liverpool are going to Madrid and that's going to, you know, we've all been told how expensive that is. So you're a fan of Liverpool FC, you might not go to Anfield to watch a sport you're not familiar with. You might keep your 20-25 quid and try and get to Madrid. But I think a lot of people in the Barcelona area, out of just curiosity, may well now buy into the fact that there's a team wearing the colours, representing the name, and if they are playing a side like Wigan, who they may or may not have heard of, but they play in a manner that they did against Warrington, they'll get the spectacle we know and love from rugby league. Why was Bradford and Leeds such a spectacle for neutrals buying in? Because it had everything you would want.
Yeah.
It showed our sport off in the best possible light.
I can't make my mind up whether Barcelona getting knocked out at Liverpool will hurt the crowd.
No, I think
it'll help it.
I think it'll help it. I think it's
Really?
the other side of that Liverpool thing is that there probably are a lot of Barcelona fans whose season has come prematurely to an end, who can go to their home ground for relatively little, you know, compared to football, it's a pittance.
How many people?
And see a team that can support and sport that they're not desperately familiar with.
I can't remember if you said it, Phil, or somebody else said it the other week, but people who are just in Barcelona on the day will be going on to have a look at the Camp Nou, to have a look around. And
Well, I would have thought it'd be better to go when there's a crowd there than when, even if it's a smaller crowd than they normally get. So I hope it's a great success. I would have loved to have gone, but sadly I can't, which is disappointing, but selling me. What are people talking about on, apart from you?
yeah, there's lots of abusing me, so that's good. Do you want to talk about? We'll talk about that in a moment. We'll talk about Peter's message because Salford lost to Hull KR. Well done, Hull KR, as we said earlier.
That's a terrific result for Hull.
Brilliant result.
You would say for Salford that was their
Disastrous.
best chance of winning something. I think I said that on the Monday
Well, I
morning
picked them as
podcast.
an outside bet to win the cup because I genuinely thought that with the squad that they've got, that we all know will be breaking up, that keep them together for 3 games, they could have been the team that with nothing else to lose could have done what John Keir's team have traditionally done: pick the matches and just said, right, we're going to go to Wembley.
I know Scotty mentioned Jackson Hastings earlier, and apparently some fans had a bit of a go at him on Saturday, which is odd because obviously he's A, their best player, B, their best player probably by miles, C, the only reason they got him in the first place is because he hadn't behaved well, and that sounds bad, doesn't it, because of what we know about Australian rugby players, but I'm not saying that in the sense of done bad things, just the exuberance of youth. He wouldn't be at Salford had he not transgressed, and they've had a go at him.
I think it's unfair. I think he's done a hell of a lot for their club off the field.
Yeah.
I don't agree with. You can question how he plays. I don't think you criticise him as a person, which I think is what some
and I
people
think
would do.
99% of the time he's played, he's been their best player, and he like every other player, is entitled to have
What did we make about Ian Watson? I think he complained about his
Really
players getting tapped up in effect. Well, they are allowed to speak to other players, and the fact that his club are not financially able to tie up deals for next year, given what you said last week about the financial predicaments, well, they are going to tell you. I'm sure in your day, Scotty, you'll know players who were sorting moves out or had already agreed moves to go at this stage of the season. Shouldn't start you playing well, especially not in a cup, should it?
I agree, yeah, and but by all accounts in the dressing room, the players are just literally at each other, because the ones who are allegedly staying, the ones who are going, they're asking about the commitment, they're asking about the desire. They reckon the dressing room, speaking to somebody at the weekend, is an absolute mess. It's an absolute mess.
Which is such a shame.
But Ian Watson, from a point of view where, no, he can't complain about that because clubs are entitled to. And
They
players,
will have been speaking to players from other clubs, I'm sure.
Well, and the other thing-
players are entitled to, so he can't help that. But
The week
they
before-
reckon the dressing room, though, Phil, and at Salford is an absolute mess.
The week before, Ian Watson was the one that told the assembled media that he didn't think his club could keep the star
Yeah,
name.
it is, yeah.
The following
Well,
week,
they can't, can they?
the following week, he's then saying our players are being disrupted because we can't keep the star name. Yeah, well, we told everybody that the week before. The shame is that for a really bright, young coach that's playing an attractive brand of rugby, if the dressing room is fractured and he can't do anything about that,
Well, he can't.
it's going to detract from his reputation, which is such a shame.
He can't do anything about the dressing room. Can't do nothing.
Well, it's Saints on Friday, so that's not going to be a pleasant experience, is it?
Yeah, but you know what? They seem to play right away from home, Salford, don't they, to be honest? When we're expecting them to win, they put
I'm
an
not tipping
absolute shocking performance, you know. But having said that, take nothing away from Lucky Art. Wilkinson Rovers were 18-6 down at half time, and literally held Salford in the second half to 0, and they just absolutely blitzed them. So you know, let's give plenty of credit to Wilkinson Rovers for the team spirit and commitment they've got.
No,
They've
absolutely.
got a massive game this week as well with Huddersfield.
They have, but just the win they would have wanted.
Oh, yeah, phenomenal. Because they just need to put some consistency
So
because we don't know. How can you tip Hull KR this week? Well, no, we don't know which Hull KR we're going to get. When they're good, they're very, very good. And when they're bad, they haven't been brilliant.
Well, the Huddersfield Lucky Art is at Huddersfield again this week.
It is. On
Yeah,
Friday.
well, I was there at the last performance from there, and the OKR players after 30 minutes gave in. Absolutely gave in, you know. So I would imagine, you know, Timmy Scene's reminding the players of that performance. I would imagine the Hull KR fans, because they turned out in plenty of numbers that night.
But you saw
they were embarrassed.
last week in against St Helens, and I was listening to you on the radio, and you said, look, they can play if they can play like this every week.
Yeah,
They're going to beat a lot of teams.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
and they did that on Sunday.
yeah.
Sorry, Saturday. They need to do it again next week, don't they?
Well, what OKR will do, they'll score plenty of points. You know,
Yeah.
against St Helens, I was 26 and 28 points from there. But again, it's a little bit like Leeds, which we'll get onto regarding their defence. But you know, at times they just can't defend. They're too soft in defensive point of view. But OKR will always at times keep themselves in games because there's plenty of points in them.
Interesting. You can't help but feel they'll be disappointed with a draw getting Warrington at home.
It's an home draw, Mark. That's what you want quarter-finals.
Yeah,
they've got a home draw.
Yeah, and what we said about Warrington earlier, you never know.
They've got the Hotleys halfback partnership in rugby league. If you believe everything you read in the papers.
Yeah.
Certainly one of the most valuable. Everybody wants. Well, not everybody, but somebody wants.
Yeah, they do indeed. Wakefield.
Yes.
3 tries late on in the game.
After a sending off.
After a sending off, they scraped through,
Yeah.
but they won.
Yeah. Thanks, Jonathan
And-
Davis. For
And
driving
then
down the way
they
at
got
Saints.
St Helens. So
Never liked him. Oh, a joke.
it's not the draw you would have wanted.
No, but
We're watching the results coming in over the week and thinking this looks quite good. If you get a favourable draw here, you're in the semi-finals and you're 2 games away. But look, if you win the cup, you've got to beat the best team.
I'm blaming Jonathan Davis. My nephew's blaming me because as soon as it came out St Helens on the telly, I said, "Watch us, look at him now," and then we did. So never mind. Sorry, enemy. As you say, yeah, beating St Helens and won.
Does Henry think you're a miserable git?
Yeah, they call me grumpy.
Do they?
Yeah.
They know.
So, they know. Oh, yeah.
Kids are never wrong,
No,
are
no.
Kids are
not.
never wrong.
Yeah, went there and won last year. Yeah, commentated on my own. Got that hilarious fancy try a couple of years ago. Couldn't happen. Well, as you say, you've got to go and win somewhere.
The fact is the games aren't next week, so
yeah.
we don't know who's going to be fit. We don't know
Lays
who's
will
going
be
to
back.
be
Danny Bruce might be
in
back
full.
by then.
Exactly.
Jacob Miller, all the
Who was it? I forget who's the draw was last year. If it was the Saints Catalan game, when Catalan all of a sudden found his form, when the draw was when we all
Yeah.
thought, oh,
Well,
that's
there was 9 weeks
Yeah.
wasn't there, between the draw and that actual game.
Wakefield are in a good, right? Wakefield are down on numbers. They're having to basically go with a team that's fit. Chris Chester might just think next couple of weeks, I'm going to leave a couple out. They're in an okay position in the league.
Yeah.
They maybe can wear a defeat or two. What's it's this season? Because I said last week, I think they can win Super League.
Will be.
And
I think they could win.
The other thing is they can go there with not a care in the world because the bookies will not expect them to win. Even their fans would. But I think that makes them very, very dangerous.
I'm
when
not so
away
sure
they're
they
at their
can.
most dangerous.
Yeah, but I'm not so
When
sure
they're
they
enough.
can. We might all be going, oh, they might not win. They'll be thinking they'll win.
No, that's
Well,
that's
all
what makes
for
them
it.
dangerous, I think.
As long as they play better than they did at Salford the other year, when we all thought they'd win and they went and got
It's-
absolutely
it's-
battered.
Important game for Wakefield this week at London, just psychologically, because there's that mark on the start of the season.
It's the unhappy serendipity, isn't it, of the song Que Sera Sera, made famous by Joyce Day. I had to check that on the internet. That's why I've got the
Did she just die?
Exactly. Unhappy serendipity. What will be, will be. We're going to Wembley, well, we might not be. But we might be. We might be. We might not.
You've got some cash on that as well.
Well, yeah, I have that every year. And now the football season's finished, I'm down to Wakefield to win the Challenge Cup and Amber Rudd next Prime Minister. I don't know which one's more
Good
likely.
luck with that one. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, so that's good. Everyone's debating the merits of the 1895 Cup and Andy's ideas, so that's good. Don't forget, coming up, Leeds in Crisis, the extra special version coming up after 7 o'clock.
And don't forget, don't forget tickets for the bash.
Can I just
Yes.
everybody who tweeted us on the weekend, the Twitter went crazy.
It did.
I was actually disappointed. I didn't.
What, yours or mine?
You won't have seen it, Scully, but I put out when the Bulls went in front. I went, I wonder if I can get 5,000 Leeds in Crisis t-shirts up to Swansea in the next hour. And everyone was like, oh, by one, oh, by one. But it was, oh, well, we'll talk about it after 7.
We got some great
I bet your guests were happy. The people entertained you. I bet they were happy.
We'll talk about that later. Gary's listening. You've had a right weekend, haven't you? Like Ikram, but you've not been at home all weekend.
It's a bit harsh, isn't it?
It's a bit true.
I've never seen Ikram, but he's always out dining, fine dining.
Yeah, well, I'm not.
Yeah, you were this week.
We haven't got
good hospitality at Warrington.
Yeah, but who's
Enjoy
going
it.
Yeah, brilliant.
to give Scully a doctorate though? Dr. Gary Schofield. There's no university in Belle Isle, is there? That's the problem.
Who wants to give me a doctorate?
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's it's Ikram, Dr. Ikram Buck. We need to get.
Oh, is he a doctor, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Dr. Scully from somewhere. If you're a
Well
university,
connected man, is
desperate,
Ikram?
We're one of those made up universities on the internet. Send us a doctorate for Scully. We'll send him along with a hat on and stuff.
Being a doctor, Doctor Scully.
Dr. Gary Scully.
Doctor of Psychology.
I'll have the
Dr. Vision of the Way.
I'll have the thimble round the neck. Is that the call? Thimbles?
Peter's a big Salford fan.
Yeah, well, he's the one who mentioned it, yeah, because he said
Yeah.
very sour taste left in the mouth about the Jackson Hastings thing. And Rugby League at the minute, there's a couple of issues. Obviously, Salford the other week with alleged racist abuse, which people decided to turn on the person
that reported it.
rather than, because.
And the person that reported it did never want that to happen.
Yeah.
As in, they don't want to be reporting
No.
that. It's their club.
And-
So if someone within your club reports it, you should be worried about that. Not from a point of view
No.
abusing them, from a point of view that's our club. We don't want that.
I very
Sorry,
much
but we don't want
am the pound shop Rod Stud, because
You've got a very high opinion of yourself, haven't you?
I am very much the charity shop Rod Stud.
That's more like it.
He pointed out the Wigan fans standing behind James John, abusing him for
We've
being a
had this
video
before.
referee.
Was it
For giving a try. Check it's a try. It's like, what kind of image does that promote for us? And as someone said to me earlier, that the family sport image is a complete myth. We all know it is. I've got more Bull fans having got me now. Yes, Susan, you're right. If we had lost a £1 million game, Wakefield would have gone completely bust. But we also wouldn't have had the support of everyone in the media complicit in the practice.
The nice thing was though that the RFL came to your aid and offered to buy Bellevue because it's an iconic stadium.
It is.
And you wonder why people don't like the Bulls and think their fans are arrogant.
Hey, listen.
Hold on.
Hey,
That's a grenade just gone over the top. Take cover.
No,
Hey,
listen to the Pulse.
Hey, listen,
these
hey,
days.
listen,
They're not
hey,
listening to us.
hey, listen, let me just tell you this. The way Leeds are going, and the crowds that won't be turning up there, will the RFL burn Leeds out and buy their stadium?
Did you see?
I don't think we can afford it.
Did you see the plans for the Otter redevelopment in your suite when you were having your sticky toffee pudding? Was there an outline of the Wembley of the North?
No, I didn't see that.
No.
Think about Speedway, that's what I'm saying.
If I didn't see it through me pint of cider, to be honest with you.
Have you seen the big Toronto
You
thing?
didn't see any briefcases lying around, did you?
Two lines of news from Toronto this week.
Yes.
Oleg Krasnicki's gone back to London.
Alright, okay.
Yes.
And they've now got their own range of cannabis-related products.
Health products.
Yeah,
Health
which are not illegal. So I don't know why everyone's upset about it.
Yeah, also, by the way, why is he, Sam at Wigan, is he injured? Why is he not being selected? Or is he just not being selected? Or is he injured?
Sam has been injured.
Was it?
Right, okay.
As far as Leeds, not trying to buy it.
Well, they're probably linked to it. Their agent probably says that they're.
Sounds go yet. Who was that miserable sod sat next to Ellie Hammy this is, Claire?
A bit harsh.
Oh, right, see, that was his missus. It's a bit harsh.
That's what it says.
Eh?
Dave says Scotty's got a doctor from the Belle Isle ball club. That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Boss.
Ray's been on. Ask the lads what they think about John Wilkin running on the field, interviewing players on the TV.
Would you have liked that?
No.
If you'd have been in the frame of mind that you
It'd
are
be-
match day.
I can't say the words, but it would have been, and it begins with F and finishes with F, don't worry about that. Totally unprofessional. Totally unprofessional.
And then to apologise for what might be said, which is obviously going to be said in
Well,
the
of
heat,
course,
in the heat of battle.
they're going into the picture and interviewing somebody who's had an important part in the try or scored the try. Absolutely
Well,
unprofessional.
well, the bloke next to
totally.
him's trying to line up a goal.
Whoever's come up with that idea, I find it totally disrespectful to the game of rugby league.
Well, I think you only judge it
Do you
if
think
they don't do it and they acknowledge that it didn't work and don't
Yeah.
do it again.
Do you think the players will have agreed to that, or the clubs will have agreed to that?
I think there must have been some.
So-
Or being told.
Yeah. They might
Well,
have been told they do.
but they could turn around and say no, couldn't
Remember the
they?
margin?
There's no financial incentive, for example, for them to say, look, we'll dock you 10 quid if you don't allow your players to be interviewed.
But do you know what, right? Because listen,
Is it a step too
right.
far?
One
in
thing,
sport?
one thing when I say when I'm doing commentary, right, is when you score a try, the next most important fact is the
Yeah.
next set of 6.
Yeah.
So you want all your players to concentrate, because how many times do we see from
Absolutely.
the kick-off where the ball is dropped on the second or third tackle?
Leeds to
The
do
next
it.
important
First
factor
try.
is getting to the kick chase from there. So you don't want your players, certainly in important games of the Challenge Cup, being interviewed by people from
Well,
the television. No,
what's
scrap
interesting
it. Needs
is-
scrapping.
In the early rounds of the FA Cup on the BBC, they have like they go around all the grounds. They've got a camera at all the grounds and a reporter there, and they interview managers during the game and stuff. And you're thinking, you're doing this now because you're patronising low league and non-league football teams, but there's no way if you go to Man United you're going to go, oh, Ollie, your team just conceded. What do you think about that? So it's just patronising, and it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick that isn't needed.
No,
it
I
doesn't add to the
think,
sport.
I think it's worth trying, but it didn't work. So they've tried.
Well,
it
I
didn't
know,
work.
because I never saw him take, because I was there. So what was it like?
Well, the interview with Sean O'Loughlin, he like was breathing out of his backside.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was a good try. I've got to work hard or something. And that was it. And
The
he's
thing
like,
for-
well,
The thing for
tell
me
me
is,
something I don't know.
the thing for me is,
That's not criticism.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
football.
but-
Like
yeah,
I said,
but how
he's
can they-
concentrating on getting his breath back, ready to take the next kick.
How can they? Because the next important factor is the next set of 6.
Yeah.
Do you
And
know
he
what I
wants
mean?
to see that his team have lined up properly
Yeah.
for the kick-off.
Yeah, it's
TV,
interesting.
TV producers come with ideas, right? Fair enough, because they haven't played the game or whatever. But when the interviewer is an actual player who knows what the players are going through, surely that player, who in the past has said cameras in dressing rooms are intrusive, and the rugby football league signing out the sport, measurement can find on the internet, isn't it? Surely that player should say to the producer, this isn't a very good idea for these reasons. He could, if it was a broadcaster coming on the field
Yeah,
and interviewing, then
It worked well in the
Listen-
cricket, didn't it? They sat in the T20, didn't
Well,
they?
there's
When you
natural
sat,
breaks,
they had a player mic'd up, but the player might be stood on the boundary.
Yeah, it's a
but they're
different
not
game,
bowling,
that.
so
Exactly.
He's got 10 seconds.
It's a
just
total
to say,
different
oh, yeah,
context.
it's
It's a
all right.
total
Yeah,
different
it doesn't
context.
work, it
They were
doesn't
doing it
work.
through overs and then say he's at third man or whichever,
Yeah.
whatever position you call
Yeah.
it. It's a different total context.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know.
should we just ignore the people having to go before we go?
No, I want you to read them out.
Here's Craig. I'm surprised, Rich, you're not saying we should be kicked out of the cup because we didn't pay our bills. It's not arrogance of the Bulls you hate, it's the fear that the Bulls are on their way back. Craig, at the start of the programme I said Bradford would add more to Super League at the moment in terms of crowds and whatever than Huddersfield and Salford and my team Wakefield. So actually listen to the words, or go listen to something less challenging. The programmes are out there. You know what they are. You know what channels they're on because people aren't watching them. Go watch those because those are the programmes for you.
Are you
Go
frightened the Bulls are coming back?
Go do a goal kicking challenge or something. 'cause
I
that's
hope the
what
Bulls
I'm
do come back.
Hasn't there been
It's not no longer a
hasn't there been many from the Bulls fans giving me a bit of a
Oh, no,
bit of a
we've
bit
seen
of a
that.
points?
The whole of social
sport
media went
needs
to
it.
Have you not seen the steam coming out of the computer? That's for you guys.
The sport needs big markets and teams in big markets, but they need those clubs to be well run. Bradford weren't well run for a long period of time, hence why they went bust 3 times. Yeah, they've got to be given time to
Can we just move on from that?
go stable.
Can we just move on?
Because they don't learn.
Alright, well they're doing alright at the minute,
They
aren't
are.
they?
That's what I mean. It was a good result on Saturday, but let's not start the Bulls are back thing before they actually are back.
Well,
at
they've got to
stable.
get out of the division, and
Yeah.
that's not going to be easy.
No.
Of course, we know that. So we'll see how that one goes.
Does it detract from their ability to challenge for promotion to have these 2 cup runs?
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Got to get in the 5, mate.
Is that all
Once they're in
that,
the
that's all
5,
that matters,
it's
yes,
wide
isn't it? It's
open. You know,
getting,
because Toronto,
But if they're
like
playing,
I mentioned about Warrington,
But
they've
if-
got to prove they can win a big game.
but if they're playing extra games in midweek now, that
They've,
becomes,
I'm not being
that
rude. I'm
becomes
not
a
being
drag.
rude. Bradford must have the biggest squad in rugby
Yeah.
league. They must have the
Yeah.
biggest squad in rugby league. Got that many players, I'm sure. And a good load of young kids. They'll be able to cope, no doubt about
Thought,
that.
of the crop of young kids that they've got, and a lot has been made of some of them might be moving on. I thought Rowan Mills absolutely was outstanding.
Yeah. What do you make of him, Ledge?
Yeah, I enjoyed him. Yeah, he organised, took control, shared out responsibility with Jordan Lee, the ideal combination. By the way, what's happened with him, Keys? Because I liked him as a half-back at Bradford. Is he injured?
He has been injured, hasn't he? By the way, we're talking about that later, so I want to talk, one we haven't mentioned is Hull Cass.
Yes, that was a great game, wasn't it? We were there.
Now, I was there watching it, and what the hell has gone on at Cass? And people have pointed at injuries, right? I had a look at the squad list when I got home. Gale, he's not playing this season. You can't use Gale's injury. They've had time to replace him.
And
dispensation to replace him.
As
So
they
you've
did
got to
do
draw
with
line through
Rankin.
that.
So
Shenton injured, Rankin didn't play, did he? Rankin didn't play.
No.
Moore's out injured, obviously a massive loss. Ollie Holmes potentially. After that, and people got Foster, but they've got enough back rollers, I think. They didn't have that many players missing. They had some big players missing, but not that many. And I just want to know what's gone wrong at Cass because I'm not sure.
But who hasn't got players missing at the moment?
No, that's what when you think injuries, and there's been times where he's had 9 players not, but 9 of his first 17 not been able to play, and then some people have pointed, so well, he can't play, whatever. You've got a bit to deal with that, and you know what? They didn't even turn up on Friday. That game was over when Jack Logan. Did you see that? When Jack Logan he must have had a tenner on the other guy before first try. Scored the line on a better dive here. I am joking, by the way. But what the hell?
What was you thinking?
I think he got all slide over and he bounced up in the air, didn't he? But anyway, it was over at that moment. And I know Shenny and Moores, and they've got some big players missing, but the players that you shouldn't be losing by that many, I don't think. Because I'm going to say, I don't think Hull were very good, but they won, and they won quite easily without being very good.
They won a cancer, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
They won a cancer.
The worry for Darryl Powell, and this is the first time he's had 4 consecutive defeats in the same season at Cass, is that he's very, very big on attitude, and he can handle his team losing, but what he doesn't like is when they're not perceived to be given their best. He was absolutely scathing on them post-match. They're worse than amateurs.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that.
Hold on, Dave Furner's here with the tea. Dave, we'll be out in a minute.
Hold on, I'm hoping it's Sean Wayne, and I hope he's delivering a 3.5 year contract.
Hold on, if it is Sean Wayne, next we'll see you'll be lying on the floor with no teeth.
It's a bit harsh, isn't it? A bit harsh. Is it Sean Wayne?
It's not that
3.5 year deal? No.
Who, the legend?
Yeah, when Sean went for it, so. That's the deal breaker.
His hospitality will be going for a burn anyway.
Alright, Sean, have you got a plan B when you come to Leeds?
Oh dear.
Who's is that? Is that mine, is it?
The show's stopped. I'm still getting more.
Thank you, ladies.
No, good. Well, it's good for interaction. All those people that are
People don't
retweeting
like it
and
when I
whatever
say-
else, they might get some tickets for
They
the
don't
bath.
like when I say don't watch.
Don't forget tickets for the bash.
Yes, like the video, share it on YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube, like our page on Facebook. We need about 20,000 more likes on Facebook, and that's not the page on Facebook, by the way, is not just this TV program, it's the whole magazine. So don't take me just ranting against the magazine.
Is it? That's the beauty of pictures like feathers to me. I've got a lean on it.
Well,
What's
it's
going on?
been cleaned, it's been manicured
Been
by,
cleaned.
by our grounds lady.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, it's
Beautiful. So, if we can finish off by talking
Castle.
about Cass.
Yes.
Good job at Leeds this week.
No,
Oh, yeah,
I'm not so
the big-
sure
yeah,
it is.
yeah,
I'm not so sure it
No,
is.
I just think there are issues more than the fact that Sky was saying there's issues in the Salford dressing room. I don't think there are at Cass, but I think there are issues at the moment in the club. The fact that Mitch Clark apparently is
You got a Wigan?
headed to Wigan.
Good
And
sign
Dal-
for
and
Wigan.
Dal-
A player,
want
I was
to
going
go
to say,
to
a
Wigan.
player who the head coach clearly didn't want to leave. That tells you that something is not quite right.
Is the appointment of a director of rugby an issue?
I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of the club.
I don't know what the division of responsibility is.
No, I'm
You
not.
need to know
I'm
that.
not so sure. I don't know. That's a speculative comment, isn't it? But that performance was not a Cass performance, and I just wonder. And the reason I mention it is I said last week when Dave Furner got sacked, if Leeds Rhinos are not looking at Darryl Powell and not looking at Sean Wayne as potentially coach, then I don't think they're doing the job right.
Well,
And
I think the debate we'll have now, because it's after 7, is more about exactly that question than they were rubbish on Saturday, because they were rubbish before Saturday.
But I would say,
So, yeah,
if I'm Gary Etherington, right, and I'd be,
Where do they
it's
go
all right.
from here?
Well, can I Can I speak as a non-Leeds fan?
Absolutely.
And I'm not. Leeds in crisis is a laugh.
That's
It's
coming
a
up as well,
joke.
by the way.
Well, it's starting now.
Oh,
We're getting.
can I say something about Hull first then?
Yeah, go on.
This guy, he was really good.
Ratu.
I can't pronounce his surname.
Roland Ratu.
Ratu Nualaga. Yeah, he was really good.
Nualaga.
He scored a try for the Army at Twickenham on the Saturday in front of 80,000 people and played in slightly fewer people and was really
Interesting
good.
that he was released to be allowed to do that.
Yes, and
Might have been
which,
part of his agreement. He
But
might have
he-
wanted to do that.
Oh, I'm sure he did. I'm
He
sure.
has to because he's still in the armed forces.
I'm
so
sure he
has to
did,
do.
and I think that the experience wouldn't have done him any harm as well. Hull would have wanted him to have
But to say
that
he's come
big
to
game experience.
Rugby
but-
League as a 27-year-old, he's doing well.
He's a player, and I think he's bringing the best out of Farang on the other wing as well.
Doesn't it just show you that we need to troll our net wider?
And you're allowed to do both in the Army.
Which again, just to finish off going back to Coventry, the one thing I
Well,
was,
actually, I was
no,
just
I
gonna
was
say
going to say was virtually the majority of their side, because we were sent the details of where they come from, their squad are local players.
Well done, Hull. Well done, Coventry.
Yeah. Just out of the top 7, 6.
Yeah, the 11 points
On
that we
points
got.
difference.
But again, they've beaten a much more established club using predominantly players who come from the Midlands. That's got to be an encouragement for the
It
sport.
has.
And, what,
Yes.
and I know people will now say, but Toronto. As I said the other day,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to
They
create
don't play
players. Yeah.
rugby league. The good thing about Toronto last weekend was that they teamed up with Ontario Rugby Union to just put on a taster day for kids. You said, come along, and this is an oval shaped ball, and we won't even bother telling you which is rugby union, which is rugby. Just come and have a bit of fun with an oval shaped ball, and they had hundreds of kids there.
If they treat
Well, if in 20 years' time, when we're obviously not sitting here, or Richard's beard is down to the floor, some
She'll
of,
still be arguing with Bradford.
some of those
Have they
kids
got a
might
job
actually be
administration?
eligible to play for the Toronto first team, but you have to start somewhere, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
And this weekend at Lamport, Toronto aren't playing, they're at the Bash, there is the America's Nines. So America, Canada, Jamaica are sending nines teams.
Yeah, and just
So
when we go on about Canada, there are
Cannabis.
more and more
cannabis.
European players now playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because they're actively
got that
going out
academy,
there.
haven't
And
He
Australia
looks,
players.
he looks like he could tackle someone.
Valentine Holmes.
Yeah, but he looks like he could tackle someone. He looks like he's quick. Oh, he looks like he can catch it.
Let's give him a try.
Let's have a look, yeah, and get them involved in the
Well,
system. Maybe that's what we need to do.
This is what I said the other day on Twitter about this, and he said roundabout point it doesn't necessarily work, but Sheffield Steelers were formed in 1991, ice hockey team in Sheffield. Last year, a lad called Liam Kirk, 19-year-old, was drafted by one of the teams in the NHL, the biggest ice hockey league in the world. That would never have happened 20 years ago without that team being formed. You can't just randomly have people turn up. If Scully had been born in Northampton when he was, would he have
like
been...
Sam Tonkin.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was Milton Keynes.
Would he have become, if Scott had been born in Milton Keynes, if it existed at that point, would he have become Gary Schofield? We don't know, do we? The chances are the answer is probably no. So
Because he wouldn't have, purely because not he wouldn't have been the
Yeah.
athlete that we needed, but he wouldn't have been exposed to the sport.
So we need to expose people to the sport. Commentary doing that, Toronto in a different way, but commentary have had a slight head start, but they're doing it right. This is what we want. more of.
You can read about Coventry and where they need to go to the next level and how they intend to do it in the new issue of 4020 magazine.
Out this Friday.
Out by Friday.
Friday.
Really
With
good.
Scott Taylor on the front.
King Kong.
Has Scott Taylor committed a crime anyway? He's starting to look a bit like you.
It's a big beard, isn't it? Yeah.
He's gone a bit.
He's not-
A bit, rogue. His hair's all over the shop. He's got a massive beard. I thought, hang on, he must also.
He looks like Robinson Crusoe, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks like he's been. He's on Castaway. He's starring in Castaway too. He's replacing Tom
In
Hanks.
fairness, I'm just lazy. He's not lazy because he's an international rugby league megastar. I'm just some gunk behind that, I think. If you like our mug, by the way,
Yeah.
we've been sent it by tacklecount.com. He did say, he sent us a message the other week, can I be cheeky and send you a free mug for a plug? I said, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we've been hanging around this story a long time now, and if you want to send us anything free,
Yeah. Put one with Scully's name on us, and that'll make you very popular.
anything you want to send us for free,
Yeah.
no, that's good.
And then we'll nick his mug and see how he
Free.
likes it.
Free's good.
Other-
Right.
Yes. The bell started now.
Order. Right. Bradford. Championship Bradford.
Yep.
Beat Leeds on Saturday in front of 1 million people and 10,000 whatever at Bradford. Great atmosphere. Looked good on the telly. came across well. It was a bit of an
Brilliant.
old-fashioned throwback, a bit of a muddy field.
It was
and-
brilliant. Everything
so
about
what did we
it was
make
brilliant.
of it?
Well, first of all, whatever we're going to say about Leeds, and obviously I'll let my learned gentleman here lead on all of the faults of Leeds. Let nobody be under the illusion that we are not here just to bag Leeds. We are here to praise Bradford.
We got. I said, oh, come on, you've got to do something about Leeds. And he went, no, Saturday was about Bradford Bulls.
Yes.
Bradford Bulls won.
Yes.
Great day
But,
for them.
and I think the way in which Bradford played, the spirit of their pack in particular, emphasised exactly what is wrong with Leeds at the moment. But I think if we talk about Leeds, let's not forget Bradford were deserving winners. They had the best players on the field. They had a desire about them that their opponents didn't have. So whatever we're now going to say should not detract from the fact that Bradford were brilliant.
They were brilliant. What did you make?
So that being said,
Oh, they were absolutely sensational, you know, and from 1 to 17, the right balance, the forwards got ripped in, creativity from the half-backs and the outside backs, and took the opportunities when they came on from there, you know, and if Liam Sutcliffe's goal had gone over, and I would have thought if they got the golden boot,
John Lilly would have kicked.
Leeds, Leeds had that sort
The
of
man discarded by Leeds Rhinos,
Leeds.
Jordan Lilly.
Or maybe not.
Leeds had that so-called, you know, momentum from there. So maybe, but anyway, it would have been a travesty if the Bulls had lost. And for 80 minutes, Bradford Bulls fully deserved that victory. And we all know now, you know, and many people have sent me messages. I've spoken to many people, even people at Warrington yesterday, i.e. ex-players of other clubs. And
Well, the Pearls come out and call Leeds soft.
Mark, you mentioned it, I think it's 2 or 3 years ago now, regarding recruitment, right? And let me just tell you this, what I know by being a Leeds player, right? Because at this moment in time, when I look at that Leeds squad, when you want to be a Leeds player and you want to be challenging for them trophies, and you want to be challenging in for semi-finals and getting into finals and winning trophies, when you look at the guard, what's left from 15, and obviously Maguire and Burrow went in 17. And when you look at the Sinfields and the Lulawais and the Peacocks and the Jamie Jones and Ablett, I know they're still there.
The Rhinos.
And the Rhinos and the Jones, you know, they were performing, and like back in my day, and the way I judge myself as a player, I always judge myself from a consistent point of view, 8, 9 out of 10. And when we talk about recruitment, and let me just say this as well before I go into this squad here now, right? What Leeds have got. 2 years ago, Bradford Bulls were relegated, deducted 12 points in the Championship. 2 years ago, Leeds Rhinos were the grand final winners. Move that on 2 years ago to last Saturday. Which is the club going forward? That's one question. That's one question I ask. But then now, that's one question I will ask, right? And so now, when I talk about players playing for this great club and keeping Leeds where Leeds should be, right? And all this talk, and I said 6 weeks ago, if we don't start smelling the coffee, you know, this is going to become an embarrassing season, and it is becoming an embarrassing season, and because the season's finished. Leeds in a relegation fight. There's no choice. They're not going to get anywhere near the 5. Everybody's saying to me, Scully, where's the next win coming from? To be honest with you, I can't answer that. This week we play Cass. All right, Cass are out of sorts, but can you say we're going to beat Cass? No, you can't. The Magic Weekend then, we play London. London will come with freedom. London will come with expression. At Anfield, they're enjoying themselves, so you can't guarantee
At
that.
Anfield, where everyone in the ground
Correct.
are in Leeds and want London to win.
Correct.
Absolutely.
They will be roared on.
They'll all be supporting London, and so then you go into the sides of Wakefield and St Helens and Wigan and Warrington. Anyway, that's further down the line. But let me just go into this Leeds squad here now. And when I just mention being consistent in performance, right? And when I look at this Leeds squad from the season that has been brought together, lower here, points, and I'm going to go through every individual I think so far this season what they deserve. And for me, this is why Leeds are in a total mess, because there's no consistent high quality performance. Lower here, 4. Briscoe, 4. Harry Newman, 5. He's not been doing bad. Conrad Hill, he gets a 7. He gets a 7.
Although that was his poorest game on Saturday.
Well, but overall, Phil, he's not been bad. Ash Hanley, he gets a 6. Sutcliffe gets a 4. McLennan, you can't put him in there because he's not playing enough. This guy, who I can't pronounce his name, but the big man from there, what I've heard about the last 3 games, realistically, he didn't impress me one little bit, so he gets a 4. Brad Dwyer gets a 5. Petteru, he gets a 3.
Only 5 for Dwyer.
Cameron Smith gets a 4. Callum Watkins, Callum gets a 3. Trent Murren, 4. Cuthbertson, who was the best forward for Leeds on Saturday. Why he got brought off, I don't know, because he was ripping the Bulls apart. Cuthbertson gets a 6. Parcell gets a 5. Alexi gets a 5. Wellington Albert 3. Right, that tells you from a consistent point of view, and the quality of players what we have got representing our great club cannot do it week in and week out. The league table doesn't tell lies while we're in the league position, and the way they did against the Bradford Bulls on Saturday, not because the Bradford Bulls played better than what Leeds did, and they did that, but quite clearly these guys are not good enough week in and week out to play at a consistent high level.
So the only guy who enhanced his reputation then was Richie Mile.
But he got dropped, didn't he?
But you could see what they were missing. I think the issue is not even about that. I saw something on Saturday that was the exact polar opposites of the two teams that were playing. Brought into absolute stark relief, because I think we've seen a little bit of it in Leeds games so far this year, that when they've come up against sides that have a real desire, particularly up front, they haven't been able to handle them, especially close to their own line. What I saw on Saturday was a team that knew exactly what they were doing and had a game plan and were going to carry out no matter what. And a team that were a collection of individuals, some of whom are quite good and some of whom at the moment are not playing particularly well. I might disagree with some of those ratings, but overall, Leeds didn't have a problem solver on the park. They had 13 people who wanted to do it all themselves. It's almost as if they have lost belief in each other, not just their own self-confidence, but they don't trust the bloke that's standing next to them to either make a tackle or be on the end of a break. They feel the only thing they can do is they'll do it themselves. Now, that leads into the next issue, which I think is really interesting. How the hell do you solve that? And who do you bring in to the dressing room that can say to these players, look, irrespective of your individual talents or otherwise, the first thing we've got to do is have you playing as though you actually know each other, and all the things that you hear about pre-season, going on bonding sessions, and we're going to go through adversity together so we know what it's like coming. It looks as though they don't know each other. They haven't really been.
So right, Phil. I'll just stop you there on that.
So how do you change that?
Right, Phil. Just on that point there, then. What has been happening in pre-season?
Well,
then?
I'm not privy to.
Well, none of us are privy
the
to
reasons why David Furner was relieved of his job.
Well, we were all surprised as anybody.
Yeah, we were sitting here last week saying, if it gets difficult over the next 3 weeks, he might be in trouble. I don't think any of us first saw it.
We said 3 games, didn't we? We said 3 games.
I don't think as we left the studio last week, we didn't know that.
We didn't. No, we didn't.
The car that was on the parade outside was him having his keys back.
Yeah, exactly.
But that says to me that some of that work that should have been going on, clearly hasn't been happening. Now, where you lay that blame, we don't know because we're not involved behind the scenes. But clearly the management at Leeds looked at what had happened in the early part of the season and said, whatever has gone on today is not bringing these guys together.
Right, Phil. The second question then.
So I don't know who to blame, but it's no coincidence that the coach isn't there anymore.
Mark, before you come in, Phil, the second one was, I think is very important then. After 6 or 7 games, we get then a statement Kevin Sinfield says, as the club has been saying all along, we're in transition.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, we're in transition. David Furner and the team need time. Why haven't we sacked him after 14 games?
I suspect that they have continually looked at a downward spiral of performance.
Yeah, and I reckon as well senior players have gone into the hierarchy.
And I think they've looked at relationships, be they between the backroom staff and or the playing staff, be that the young kids or the senior kids, the guys who don't get selected, who quite rightly should be annoyed and upset, and that was the same in every club. There'll be people knocking on Justin Holbrook's door saying that they deserve a chance.
But how many of those players that aren't getting selected at Leeds have been basically told they're not going to get selected?
Well,
and that comes down, you say all the time about man management.
Yes.
Can I just make an observation?
Yes,
right?
absolutely,
I thought
100%.
the sacking last week shocked us all.
Yeah.
Right? What shocked me more, and this is the honest truth, is the interview that Kevin Sinfield did after the sacking, because I thought it made him look really poor. He looked like a little boy who was doing a man's job, and he was like, he actually said, he went on record and said, I hope this decision gives the players a kick up the backside. And I'm thinking, what? So you sack the coach to give the players a kick up the backside? Should that not have been the first thing, give them a kick up the backside? Get some of them dropped, get some of them outed in public, like he's outed some of the younger players that clearly aren't part of his plans. I think that squad is breaking up because of the way that it's been handled. And I think that it's interesting that Gary Hetherington has come out yesterday or today, whenever it is, making another statement about this club's not in crap, blah, 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 supporting Kevin Sinfield. I just wonder at the moment who's more important to Leeds going forward, Gary Hetherington or Kevin Sinfield, because I get the feeling that both of them cannot continue long term, because I thought Kevin looked shocking when his statement was poor. It was really poor, right? I can imagine it's been a tough decision.
I'm not defending
He's in a big man's world now.
Well, I think that now he is under, for the first time ever, from the people that adore him, they're questioning him.
Well, the question is, right, and I've questioned you for years, and I think now you've got to say their recruitment has been rubbish for a long time. You can't say it. The players out there, they are there. The players are there. All the other teams have improved. Leeds have gone backwards, and it's all right saying you can't replace a Sinfield. No, you can't. But you can go out and sign a Blair Costin or whoever, or a Sean O'Loughlin.
The players that they've got and the
they've been in the bottom two. They've been in the bottom four for the last 3 years.
The issue that they've got is that there is an attitude thing and not a talent thing.
So Brian McDermott, Gary Hetherington, Kevin Sinfield, David Furner, they're all in charge of that club. Why is that not being dug out before now? I'm not doing that.
No, I think that is over the last 2 or 3 years. That the things that got them to where they were are not happening at the moment.
Then the blame comes down is why have those players not been replaced? And I know what you're saying you can't replace like
No, I think over time
you can go buy a nasty prop to replace Jamie Peacock that'll do you 30, 40 whatever. You can get players like that.
Which
Mike Cooper does that at Warrington. You could have gone and got Mike Cooper.
To be fair, and it's either an explanation or it's an excuse, whichever you want. A lot of people on Twitter think it's an excuse, but they bought Keith Galloway, who if he hadn't had 2 snapped Achilles tendons would have been that horrible ugly prop.
Why have they let Garbutt go then?
For whatever reason.
I'm coming back to my opinion.
But
I think
recruitment is less of an issue than seeing a group of players out there who, man for man, would have been better than their opponents when you saw the team listed on Saturday.
I don't think that
was attitude.
No, yeah, but
people have said, we need to drop Richie Myler. They dropped Richie Myler. They gave
we said on this show, right? Yeah, but McClellan now will be. He played when we lost in the cup, so he's without being doing anything wrong.
He was alright the first half.
He's almost a scapegoat by default.
He's not a scapegoat at all. They're giving some of the kids a chance.
No, they're not. They're 15 rounds in the Super League. How many games has he played in Super League?
No, they give some of their kids. Newman has played more than had been anticipated.
Newman has played because Callum Watkins has been rubbish.
No, they both played.
Right, I'm going to move on, right? I'm going back to my initial point, right? Both, Hetherington, in my opinion, has done all the recruitment for however long. Yes. And he's got away with it because he had a golden generation of players that they added to, like they brought Peacock and whatever, and they added some quality around it, and they were dominant, they were brilliant.
And they used that system
as soon as players have gone, and I'll go back, I have no doubt Brian McDermott was made Leeds coach because they thought we're going to have a bit of a rocky period here because these players are going, and somehow they managed to keep going, and they kept going, and they kept winning, and in 2015 they achieved everything, and then from then they won. You see what you want. Leeds won the grand final against Cass by default. The best team in the competition by a million miles.
They deserved to be in that final. You can talk
it was
about
the worst Super League. It was the worst Super League in history.
You have to have 2 teams in the final.
But it papered over so many cracks, Phil. And people go, everything's alright. It's not alright.
Yeah,
it's not alright.
Yeah, I think you're missing the point.
No, the point is, right, who are they getting rid of? Are they getting rid of Hetherington or Sinfield? Because Hetherington's doing the recruitment, as we're led to believe, and we're led to believe he's still doing the recruitment, which means Kevin Sinfield, as much as I can criticise the way he's come across, he's gonna get hung because of Hetherington's mistakes. So when does Kevin go to Paul Caddick, get rid of him because he's getting in my way. And it's, you know what it is at the minute? I think Paul Caddick, right, is a rich dad writing off cheques to cover up his son's losses. Oh, no, I'll pay for that then.
I don't think he is now.
Oh, you've crashed the car. You've crashed the car, I'll buy you a new one, don't worry about it. They've got rid of McDermott to change the ethos of the club. A year later, they're in a worse position. So was that the wrong decision? They brought in.
Yes,
They brought in Furner,
No, it was the wrong-
Sinfield. I brought him in because of this, and this.
Yeah.
They sack him 14 games in. Honestly, that's the
Rich-
biggest
Rich
thing.
wants
Until
to
that's
say-
sorted out, it's not going. They're not going to
that's
get.
where I think the debate needs to be about how do you sort it out.
I need to bring up a point that's been made on social media, and I'll come to that in a moment, just because it's important that we clear something up. But what I do want to say is that it's interesting, because everything in life, in sport, in the world, is full of hypocrisy. I realised this last week. Everyone's a hypocrite.
Except the four of us.
Except those four. We never change our minds on anything. Excuse me. Go back to an incident in which Zach Harday was involved and Elliot Minchella was involved when both were at the Leeds Rhinos.
Yeah.
And look at how both those men were treated.
Yeah.
Because one was a man of steel and one was a young player making his way in the sport.
Mhm.
If he had stayed at Leeds, because he's been one of Bradford's better performers this year,
Yeah.
well, Leeds
Well,
been
they've
better
been
with
Elliot
Elliot
Minchella.
Minchella been one. And that's just the hypocrisy of sport in throwing people on the scrap heap because they do something wrong. And I'm not saying, but there you go. And Zach Hardick has been given another million chances since then. Points on Twitter. Nick, bringing back players to recreate the glory years never works. Look at Leeds United post Revy. The Rhinos need a Howard Wilkinson to take them forward and change the culture.
See, I think
Well,
that's the debate.
Well, Simeon makes the same point. Is it true Leeds are interested in Danny Maguire for the backroom staff? Isn't that the same thing? And on the point of Elliot Minchella, because he's got none of the headlines this week, because it's easy to go for Jordan Lilly. And on Jordan Lilly, here's Ian, who in their right mind would say to Jordan Lilly, we don't want you next season, it's either arrogance or stupidity. Well, A, for a start, there's a reason why Jordan Lilly's at Bradford and not at another club. But, Phil Kaplan.
Again, you believe who you want to believe. We have no reason to doubt that stories that say Leeds are interested in Danny Maguire are in any way untrue. The club are denying that. The issue of the salary cap raises its head as well, that Leeds could not afford to bring Danny Maguire in at this stage of the season. That very few clubs will be going out and signing a major player who are up to the salary cap. Now,
They could if they got someone out.
well, nobody wants any of their players at the moment.
I think you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. I think Leeds' problem is everyone knows they're up against it. No one's going to help them out until they offer someone out on the cheap. Just
The
to get rid of them.
the
It's not
official
that.
word from Leeds is that they have not approached Danny Maguire. The official word from Leeds on Jordan Lilly is that negotiations do not start with Jordan Lilly about whether they wish to take him back next year or not until the 1st of August. And that is written in a contract that Jordan Lilly has signed, that he is already a Leeds player for next year.
So why is he telling everyone he ain't got a deal for next season?
That I don't know.
Or his representatives.
No, he's come out and done it. He's come out and been told he's not wanted.
The official, I'm saying, I
But
don't
then
know
again,
what's right or
we know other players at Leeds have been told they're not wanted at Leeds.
The
We know
official
that for a
line
fact.
from Leeds is that Jordan Lilly has a contract with an agreed wage in it for this year, and that contract is to be discussed, written into the contract before the 1st of August this year. Those discussions have not yet taken place, according to the club. And I think it's also safe to say that at the moment, Bradford haven't said that they want to exercise another year on Jordan. So it's a great headline.
I say as well,
But I'm not sure, again, this is the issue that is at the heart. I think, again, the talk of Howard Wilkinson coming in at Leeds is exactly the conversation that I think is the most interesting at the moment.
Yeah, but what we heard from Howard Wilkinson when he came in, and this is what I remember Bill Fotherby doing his interviews, who's just passed away, rest of his soul, saying he basically he said to Wilkinson, "Who do you want? I'll go get you. Tell me who you want, and I'll go get him." Leeds can't do that.
No.
Leeds can't do that.
No,
and if they do, who's he going to? Is he going to Warrington, or is he going to
The
Sinfield?
football analogy, to use Leeds United, it's almost as if David Furner was Brian Clough when he came in. And he looked at what had gone before and said, I don't want anything to do with any past glories. So anybody who's been involved in the previous staff, any of the players, I'm going to do it, man. And I think the problem he had was that he tried to do too much too quickly to change things into his way.
Hold on, well, 1 second there.
Right. So the
Kevin
next
Sinfield did a complete study of the backroom staff, an overhaul.
Yeah.
It was he who made the decision to bring in Laws.
Yes.
Then Laws walked
But
out.
what I'm
It was
saying
him who
is
made the decision to
yeah.
change the strength and condition and all that. So
Yeah.
that you
But
can't blame
Fur-
that on Dave Furner.
No,
That's Kevin Sinfield.
What Furner apparently did was what was so wanted to do it his way, in the same that Clough did, that whatever structures were in place when he arrived, he wanted to dismantle that too quickly. So for whatever reason, Kevin Sinfield got that wrong. He misjudged David Furner. What he can 15 games, he's not the man. So there's a misjudgment there somewhere. So the question then becomes, rather than go back over too much of that and say who is at fault in that, where do they go from here? And I think there is in everything there's a historical precedent, which doesn't necessarily give you the answer, but it's something you go back to. Gary will remember this. In 1985, Leeds' coach up to March of that year was Maurice Bamford. Maurice did such a good job that he was poached by Great Britain. And for the last 3 months of the 1985 season, Leeds got a bloke called Malcolm Clift from Canterbury, who was an Aussie who just totally upset the place. Players couldn't understand him.
We must buy Malcolm a pint sometimes.
Didn't really know what. So he only lasted the same as David Furner, 3 months, and he was gone. Leeds then had a massive decision to make because they were on a downward spiral at the time. They'd been the dominant team in the late 60s, most of the 70s, but by the time we got to the mid 80s, they were waning. So they'd had this period into the mid 80s where they tried buying 100 Aussies and it hadn't worked. They tried an Aussie coach for a short period, it hadn't worked. The next appointment they had to make in the summer of 1985 was going to see them through the next period of rebuilding, which they're in at the moment, and to restore confidence. And the Leeds board at that time made the worst decision they could possibly have made. Not because he was the worst coach, but because he was the worst coach for Leeds at that time, and they went and got Peter Fox. And although Peter Fox is one of the greatest of his generation, he was completely the wrong man for Leeds. For 2 years, they stumbled about to the point where, at the end of the 1987 season, 86-87, they avoided relegation on points difference. And if Oldham had won on the last day of the season, Leeds would have got relegated. That summer was when they went out and broke the transfer record twice in 3 weeks, getting Gary Schofield, Lee Crooks, and brought Malcolm Reilly in, who for 14 months was exactly the right coach. Got the best out of everybody, pruned the squad, set whatever culture means. Leeds are in a position where they can't afford to now go and get a Peter Fox. They need to jump that and go and get a Malcolm Reilly. So the question I find the most interesting at the moment, who is out there that they can go and get?
It's interesting. Timing is everything in everything, isn't it? In life, in work and whatever. And Matt's one who's pointing his name out on Twitter, and a few others have pointed the name out. It's very interesting that on today's 5 Live Rugby League podcast, their ultra special guest is a man who's kept quiet since October. It's Sean Wayne. I don't want to give you the downloads, but you can listen to it if you want. I'm not listening to it, I don't need to know what it says. It's very interesting. At this point in time,
He's thrown his hat in.
with one of the biggest jobs in world rugby, as I called it on TalkSport 2 last week, it is one of the biggest jobs in world rugby. The coaching job at Leeds Rhinos is open. And there's Sean Wayne saying, showing a bit of leg.
I could
a
do
bit of
a-
leg to
I
Kevin
could do a
Sinfield
job.
and or Gary Hedrington.
I could make a difference.
Well, can I?
Who would you have, Gary? Who
Well,
would you
Sean Wayne, no doubt about it, but a couple of things here as well. If Sean Wayne's going to come to Leeds, because I play with Sean at Leeds, great player, tough as a come, plenty to play to. We all know what he's done at Wigan there. But I would imagine Sean, if he's going to come to Leeds, he will be saying to Harrington and Sinfield, it's my way. It's my way. I don't want any interference from you. And as you mentioned there, if I want A, B, C and D, I want you to go and get it. You make it happen, because Wayne will bring the good times back. I know the Leeds fans, loads of Leeds fans, so listen, Wayne will sort this out. They need to give him a 3.5-year deal as from tomorrow. Go get him tomorrow. But now, 2 things here, which is unprecedented for Leeds. And I point it out to a few people. When they do appoint a new coach, and I'm hoping it's Sean Wayne, on a 3.5-year deal, that will be Leeds' 6th coach in less than 12 months. McDermott, Sinfield and Laws, whoever we do with the coaching, but they're both there. Furner, Richie again now into him, and then the new coach who's coming, which I said hopefully it's going to be Sean. So 6 coaches in less than 12 months. And secondly, when we talk about this battle, as maybe what's going on with Kevin and Gary, who's the main boss, there's only one person to sort out, and he hasn't become one of the most successful businessmen in the country for being a fool. It will be Mr. Carrick who will sort this out, because I saw Mr. Carrick at the end of the game, and he was talking there with Gary and what have you, and literally he was absolutely steaming. Mr. Carrick, as I've just mentioned, hasn't become one of the most successful business people in this country without making ruthless calls. And I would imagine Mr. Carrick may say to Mr. Hetherington and Mr. Sinfield, have a meeting with them two, and say to them, decide what your roles are, decide who does A and B, and I don't want any interference. And if I find out, I will decide what goes on. Sort it out, or else I'll sort it out.
I know this-
And to finish on that, as you mentioned with the coach, Sean Wayne, 3.5-year deal, and he will bring back the good time back to Leeds.
So going back to what you were saying about division of labour in those two roles, I think if you get the coaching role right, and the coach is somebody as dominant as the kind of person they need at the moment, those two roles do get taken care of. Because actually, you wouldn't take that job if you were Sean Wayne or another, whoever might be in the frame for it, unless you got carte blanche to do what you wanted. So I think the roles of Hetherington and Sinfield change by the coach that you get. And that's why it's such an important appointment. I still maintain that the majority of those players on the field at the moment are significantly better than they're playing, and that somebody coming in who could galvanise them as a team rather than a collection of individuals who are all doing their own thing, might even have their own agendas, some of whom might be annoyed that they're not getting a contract, some of whom don't know whether they are, some of whom, you know, are playing with a point to prove. Whatever, it needs someone talking to them to get them working together. Now, if that coach is a huge personality, then it overrides Sinfield and Hetherington.
Do you think Kevin will look back at his time in charge already and think, I've made a lot of mistakes?
I hope so, because I think that's how you learn as a player. I think that's how you learn in life. I don't think you learn anything if you're continually successful. I think the only way you ever become better and understand... Let's not forget, he's got a master's in business sport administration, so he knows the theory. But the theory and the practice...
Hold on. As someone said the other week, right?
No.
Great, there's about 10,000 kids who've got them.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
everyone
no.
else said, by the way, I want to run Leeds Rhinos.
No.
Yeah. I tell you what, you can get a job working on the burger stand, and when you've done that and swept the stand, we might think about giving you a job in the office.
This is a master's degree.
Oh,
this isn't your 11 plus or your SATs.
Oh,
But
God's sake.
he is trying to put into practice theory, and the only way you know if theory works is if it goes wrong.
What do they say about people like that have made millions in business, mega rich football owners? They go to football and they go, oh, this is not what business, this is madness. So he's got a master's degree.
No, that's
Jimmy Peacock,
I'm
everyone
just-
tells me
he's
one of the
got
best
one as
players
well.
in the
He's
business.
got a master's
Well, he
degree.
cocked it up at Hull KR,
Right.
didn't he? And he
So-
had a free reign.
So that's what I'm
And
saying.
you're man here.
I think making mistakes.
I think you're stood there full of your fingers in your ears going, oh, none of this is happening, none of this is happening.
say
It's
that.
happening.
It is happening.
You're making a right mess of
Why?
it. You know
It's
that.
how they get out of it. That's the.
How do they get out with him?
Well, I think that's why this coaching appointment, which needs to happen.
Who do you want as a coach?
If Kevin Sinfield, by the way, doesn't want to be perceived to the outside world as part of the coaching staff, he shouldn't be wearing the tracksuit on.
No,
Well,
it's
next week today going
terrible.
There's plenty of people that wear tracksuits.
But he's
Gary
either a director of rugby.
Gary
or
doesn't, Phil. Gary doesn't.
No.
Right, who do you want as Leeds coach?
It's a really good question, because I think you've got to temper that as well with who might be available.
No, who do you want as coach?
The more I think about it, and it's going to probably set Richard's laptop on fire, is I think this is the perfect time for Darryl Powell.
Well, I said last week, I agree with you. I think
But
it's
also,
also
not just Darryl Powell, but I think Darryl Powell bringing with him Ryan Sheridan, because I think there are a number of things. The first thing is Darryl's great strengths as a coach are improving people, and I am still convinced that at least half to 3/4 of the people that he would be working with at Leeds were people he could improve. You would see an immediate return to a spirit and a collective under Darryl. I think Darryl also works incredibly well with players who are just coming through. I think that was the strength of the Sinfield, Maguire, Burrow generation. It was Darryl that brought those players through. It needed Tony Smith to finish them off because Darryl was relatively inexperienced at the time, but Darryl has a great track record of developing an emerging talent. So I think again that's where the 3 years comes in. I think
Sean Wayne's not bad.
I think the other thing about Darryl is that I don't know whether Darryl is now going to win anything at Castleford. I think we spoke earlier in the programme about where Castleford are at the moment, and if they're selling people like Mitch Clark and Darryl doesn't want them to, I just don't know whether
Salary cap sport, you can't keep
No,
everyone.
no, but
If Mitch Clark's getting
Mick
paid
Clark-
100 grand at Wigan,
Yeah.
if Wigan feel he's worth
Fine.
it and Cass can't afford it, then it's business of
yeah, but I
economics.
think if you're a club that is not a selling club, and the coach wants to keep a young player who he can build his pack round for the next 5 years, you allow him to keep that player.
Maybe they've already
But
committed too much
one-
money to other players.
One thing Darryl needs to do is he needs to prove to himself, not anybody else, that he is a coach that can win a
He's not
major
going to win
trophy.
anything at Leeds in the near future.
No, but I think it gives him the stage. There's
Right.
no excuses. If
Here's
he
a
doesn't.
question, and I asked you this
So,
the other week.
you
Here's a
asked
question.
me-
No, I'm
I
asking you the
think
question. What are Leeds, and this is what I said about Furner, they've got to make a decision with Dave Furner. Are they in it for the long haul, and they're
Yeah.
going to give him 3 years to turn that squad around and judge him in 3 years' time? Can Leeds wait that long? Or do they need a
Yeah.
Sean Wayne to come in now, rip a few heads off in the dressing room, kick a few up the
Well, I
backside
think
as
Darryl
Kevin
can do
Seafield?
that. I think Darryl can do enough in the
Well,
short
can he?
term.
Because he's not doing it at Castleford now
No,
because his players are not responding if he is.
I just think
so
he
what's
can.
the plan? Are they in it for the long haul?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Can they? So
Are you-
you're telling me Leeds can put up with being in the bottom half of the table for the next
They-
2 years,
they-
which is probably what would have to happen.
They might have to because it's happened before, and it's exactly what should
But
happen.
is that going to be acceptable for
Yes.
the man at the top?
If they can see progression. At the moment, it's not acceptable because there is no progression. But I think that if they were to bring Darryl into that environment, that he has the tools for the long term. He has the short term ability to get them out of the predicament they're in. He has the long term tools to bring on some of the talent they've already got.
Yeah.
So yes, but I also think that, and Gary will tell you this better than anybody, one of the things Leeds fans want is entertainment.
Absolutely.
And the style of play that win or lose, and obviously winning when you're at the bottom is far more important. It's also about that philosophy of how you play. And if you're opening a new facility on Thursday, which will accommodate 22,500 people in Luxor, and you've only got 10,000 there because the style of rugby that you're playing is so poor, one of the things you need to address is what Darryl can bring to that team,
Okay.
and it will be entertainment.
Right. Well, Leeds here in their off contract, not yet determined list. They've got no one off contract. Is that right? So the squad, you've got the squad. That's your squad. James Donaldson on peanuts. Brett Ferris would imagine will be on a decent salary. There might be a bit of wiggle room if you let Brett go. That's the squad he's got. They cannot, you know, even if you say, right, we get another 20%, that might take you to the middle of the table rather than the top. There's
But
still no room
No,
there
but
to
I
move.
think that the one thing that is, you saw it with, another try from Harry Newman. He does make some mistakes at the moment because he's naive. But
He's going to be a good player.
you
I think
want-
even we
you
can
see
see
that.
that.
And
Got
I
to
said,
stick by him. Got
I
to stick
said
by
at
him.
the start of
Yeah.
the season that he would play more games than he didn't. I think Callum McClelland has been given a chance this week. I think the only really good thing to come out of that performance
Why was Myler dropped?
well, because the week before at Salford he was poor, and Richard Agar came in and picked on form. So I think there is something to work with there. Yes, obviously they're still in the market for, and I don't think it's any secret, they're trying to get George Burgess for next year.
Right.
So there is still
So how are
going
they
to be.
going to pay for him then?
Well, I think they. I
With
think
one of their current marquee players disappear.
Well, I think they're looking to get more than the people who might be out of contract out of the club. I think there is a plan to sign players who are named players, and there is a reliance on some of the kids coming through who, Aletsky again, who's playing like 14 of the 15 games this season. I think he's got enough potential for, if the right coach is there, to say you've got something to work with. You may not go from being one of the worst teams in Super League over 3 of the last 4 years to winning it the year after, but you can progress this club. You can play the right brand of rugby with the resource that is currently there that will try and enhance.
Can I rewind that? Surely JJB and Ablett are.
He's down there.
Oh, they're on there.
Yeah.
Not being offered. So they're going to go. So that will
Yeah,
free.
so they will have
Brad Dwyer on the.
They've either been offered or we don't know
Hmm.
what their status is.
So he might have been offered something but hasn't yet
Thought it was
accepted.
Scotland who paid to pay.
I'm just looking at it. I think there's more pain. I've said I agree. I think Wayne or Powell, you've got to go. I just don't see anything getting better while the hierarchy is in.
No,
is
but
in
I think that's
crisis.
why now the coaching appointment is so important, because in some ways that determines how the hierarchy
One
behaves.
thing for sure though, they can't go Australian. Can't go Australian. Nowhere.
I would say once bitten, twice shy. They shouldn't.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be looking elsewhere. The only two people I think that are available at the moment, if you were to, because I think they need to make the appointment now. They can't wait till the end of the season.
They've got to get it. They've got to get it as soon as possible.
I think Shane Flanagan is damaged goods who nobody should go. In fact, the RFL should come out and say, look, if we're not prepared to allow Ben Barber
I thought he
Israel
was banned.
Folau to play, he's banned in Australia.
So why is he not banned here then?
We should just be saying, the RFL should be saying we won't support his work permit. If you think of bringing him over, we're not going to support him. So that would rule him out. I think Jason Demetriou has been named as somebody who wants to come back, but I just don't think he's what Leeds need at the moment.
I mean, experience as a head coach.
Well, he's been an assistant under some of the best coaches in the sport, and he may well be.
So's Ferner, hasn't
he? Yeah.
He was a failed head coach as well, which Demetriou hasn't been.
Yet.
I think I'm more angry about it than you, and I don't even like Leeds.
I know people want.
I don't feel quite angry about it.
I am to the point now of being really intrigued about where they go, because I don't think any of us
I just watched that interview last week and thought, you're in trouble here.
I don't think any of us saw Ferner happening. I think we thought, Gary thought, the Grace would get him to the end of this season. We thought next week.
I'm pretty sure I said if they lost to Bradford, he'd be in trouble. So
I don't think we thought before they even played Bradford. I think the dynamics changed.
Well, last week I said 3 games, didn't I? The Bradford game, which we anticipated.
But you also said you'd be surprised if they didn't get the year.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm going to say, because what I'm going to say, Phillies, and I said it with Adrian Lamb, but obviously that's all changed now. But for David Ferner and Lamb, it's like a honeymoon period season for him. And what I did say was, if Ferner's in the same position this time next year, then I would imagine he will get the sack. But it came as a total surprise, so...
and it's very un-Leeds-like.
Oh, very un-Leeds. Totally. Yeah. But
so what's that message from on your phone then? That's an interesting message. Sorry for reading it. It did pop up.
But who was it from?
I don't know.
David Ferner. You don't know anything, and I'll tell when I get back to Australia. I'll tell everything.
Whatever the comment was, I can't verify that.
I'll tell my phone's going as well. I'll be telling everybody what happened. But what it's telling me here is that senior players have gone to whoever, they've gone to Gary Evington or they've gone to Kevin Sinford and said, and do you know what, I wish Alf Davis and the board would listen to me with Doug Lawton, but I'll tell you. But the senior players, they have gone to the hierarchy and said, unfortunately, this is not working, and we can't play for him, and that's why he's got the bullet. Simple as that.
Unfortunately for Scully, they didn't see the potential in having an MA in the...
100 to 1 Scully was in the...
Well, now then.
As I said on Twitter, they rang us up for a reference and he went out to 250 to 1.
I just want to... I know...
That's a bit harsh.
It's great to be in the betting.
It's a bit harsh.
I know people are...
If you'd have put 50 quid on Scully, you'd have gone to about 5 to 1.
I know.
No,
That'd have been... If you'd have put 50 quid on, you'd have gone to about 5 to 1, You would have done.
It would have been brilliant.
I know people are sick of us talking.
We should have.
Are people sick of us
Actually,
talking about
like it.
Yeah, like I was going to mention a name and then decided not to.
Are people sick of us talking about Leeds?
I'm not being rude
Because
about
if they
that.
genuinely think that there's a bigger news story than this in the sport, they're falling
Well,
asleep.
I'm upset with them anyway, so I don't care anymore. I just want to, because I'm trying to find the better.
Can you imagine if Manchester United were in the predicament that Leeds were in, that every football
Well,
they brought in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yeah, he's the Kevin
Everyone
Sinfield.
thought he was great, and now they all want him rid of him.
So,
it's just madness.
if people don't think that this is what
I just
the
want to
story
ask,
is after Saturday.
The big issue I have, it's the what is the plan
Yes,
at Leeds?
exactly. That's the thing.
I just want to ask
Been
about...
thrown into real sharp relief by
Rich, Phil, let's just let's
That's the job you're not paid by the word.
So let's look here now then. We've got the next 2 games, Cass and London. If we lose them 2 games, where are we?
It's a fight.
Where are we?
It's a fight for every single minute of the rest of the season.
Where's our next win coming from?
Well, it could
Oh,
be.
you can't say that because we said that before.
It could be Thursday.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah. You know what?
All right,
the two out of form
do you
teams
think
play.
they'll beat Cass on Thursday?
Well, we'll get some predictions in a minute.
I would
but
want to back Cass. I would want to back
I
Cass.
have to
The
say,
two
how-
post sides at the moment.
How many predictions have we got right this year?
I get them right nearly all the
No,
time.
you don't. This is the man who said by 30.
Before we do move on, because I know we have to, I just want to ask, because a lot of people have mentioned him, and I tweeted on Saturday night, I thought he'd been set up as a bit of a fall guy by having to front up and make a statement. But there's someone at Leeds have a big folder on their hard drive full of statements just to send off. Gary Henderson sent it to the Leeds media department. Just send this one out today, Phil. Just send this one. Callum Watkins, who is the captain of Leeds Rhinos, and we can all debate whether he should be or not, and whether he's a leader or not. I don't know. I'm not an expert on personality. I've only got a D and an E, sorry,
in
in A-level,
personality.
E in A-level psychology, so I'm not an expert on what makes
What
him
I
a
would
leader
say
or
is
not.
one of the main issues that is wrong at Leeds at the moment, and Callum's taking all the flack for
Yes.
it, is there is no senior leadership.
He shouldn't be. He's not the reason why.
No.
Some
So-
people don't point and shout.
Right.
That's just not their makeup.
Matt Brindle, brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
What's he saying?
I'll tell you later.
I'm trying to find the Leeds baby.
Is
I
it,
don't know if it's
is it
out.
libel?
No, it's just very funny. I think it'll raise a laugh. I think even you'll laugh at this.
I think Leeds have got the Leeds.
Well, really, Alan.
No.
The Leeds Rugby hierarchy have gone wrong. They should have made Leeds Rhinos part time and kept Carnegie going full time.
So what's the odds?
But yeah, I'm trying to find out. Colin Watkins is getting blamed for all this, but is he? Should he have been put in that position in the first place? Is the captaincy impeding his career, or is it the?
No, I
injuries?
think the injuries is. I think the injury, and Callum has spoken honestly about his mental health. He's been out for a long time. I can't imagine anyone that's got mental health worries being out for a long time is good for him. I think that's really bad for him. And he's a player that, when you see him playing great, he's got a smile on his face, and you think, wow, what a player that
What
kid
was the last
is.
time you saw him play well?
Well, I said earlier, he's not been playing well, but is he struggling with everything? I don't know. I'm asking. I don't know. I might be
Yeah, but
speculating really
Mark,
unfairly.
listen, mate. Listen,
No, I think he
listen,
needs
Mark.
help.
I've been the captain of Leeds, right? And by the way, I've been.
Yeah, I'm not being rude. I'm not being rude, Gary. You're a little bit more of a different character. to
Yeah, I
Colin.
understand that. This is what I'm
You're
saying.
big and brash and couldn't give a damn what anyone thinks about it. He's probably quite worried when,
Right,
when he sees someone on Twitter
This is
saying
what
he's
Mark.
rubbish,
This is
and
Mark.
he probably worries about
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. So take the responsibility and the pressure away from
But
him.
it's
No,
not.
I agree.
It's not. It's not a single person issue. They do not have a coherent leadership group there.
Well, you know what they don't have? They don't have a decent halfback. Well, that's the problem.
But do you know if McCollum is going to be a decent halfback? You've only
Well,
seen him
Kevin
play half
Sinfield
again.
told me he was going to be great playing for Leeds. That's
So
what everyone
is he
told
now
me.
going to get the chance?
Well, I said to you, I'd have picked him 3 months ago, or 2 months ago, instead of some of them that they're playing now.
Anyway, you know who should be the
And I go
coach.
back to recruitment. Not good enough. You get rid of a club legend like Danny Maguire, you don't replace him with a Richie Myler. You replace him with a Blake Costin or some Australian test halfback that's coming to the end of his career, and you break the bank and say, this is a statement, this is why we've let Danny go, because we're bringing in a world-class player. You don't just get someone that's not... whatever people think about Maguire, on his day can still win you games,
Oh,
and he'll
right.
win you more games than Richie Myler will win you. And I like Richie, he's a nice guy, but he's not...
It's not good enough for
said
Leeds.
it. He's not.
Well-
He's not what they need him to be.
Derek's somewhat your name here, and he shouldn't be the captain, Derek, you're wrong. He should be the coach of Leeds Rhinos, who's got a great record as a coach, Adam Cuthbertson, because Leeds Rhinos women, because it's only the men in crisis. They beat Wigan 12-4 yesterday in Women's Super League. That's a segue, you see.
In a repeat
Like
of.
professional of the grand
Last year's
final.
grand final.
It's Castleford, who are the men of 2017, are the women of 2019, so don't back them to win the grand final. They beat Saints 30 points to 14. They're now the 800 crowd at Cash yesterday.
Brilliant.
Fev beat Wakey 40 points to 8.
You were
And Bradford beat York 40 points to
So,
4.
just for the record,
Adam Cuthbertson.
there were 800 at thing.
Yes.
There were 500 at Rochdale York yesterday, and dare I say, I would imagine York would have taken a few there. Rochdale get funding off the RFL, and Cass Women get nothing.
They'll be funded by the foundation or whatever to. Well, they don't get paid, do they? Rhiannon Marshall, by the way, is the best number 13 in Rugby League at the minute.
Okay.
Saying it now.
Where did we get the betting?
No, he wasn't there,
Alright, okay.
but we made it.
Alright, fair enough.
We'll see what happens.
So what are the odds on?
I can't find
We
it.
don't know.
Oh, you don't.
We don't
Right.
know.
Well, I think Sean Wayne is the favourite.
I can't look, so I've had to have my phone in.
So horse
So
as well.
it's
So,
not-
so,
I'll
so,
Google
so,
it.
so, so when we're talking, because people have said to me again over the weekend regarding the Richard Marshall scenario. Sean Wayne, what Richard Marshall?
Well,
Sean
again,
Wayne might not need him.
again
Well, yeah, I agree.
for me, I don't think at this moment in time where Leeds are, it is a time to try a coach who hasn't coached at the very top level.
That makes complete sense. So, by the way, Fed fans have been up in arms in the last few days, at least 2 of them. Because
Okay.
you had to go their new coach at the start of the year because he had no experience, and they're saying, you never said David Fennell was a failed coach, says Graham, when you were slagging off Fev's coach at the start of the year.
No, I
Yeah.
wasn't slagging
saying-
off.
Yeah, Phil.
I wasn't
That's
slagging
great.
off Featherstone coach. I was just saying we shouldn't have Australian coaches in the championship.
Yeah.
and I stand.
I think we did
And
not
that was-
say it should
that was
take
nothing
up
to
one of
do-
your playing
Yeah.
spots. Yeah, I still agree
And
with
that
that.
was nothing to do with the fact that it was Featherstone. I just thought somebody who had no.
What time is it? Oh, Christ.
So, well, we started.
Steve, where
Well,
we
we
found
did.
Somebody who
results?
had no experience shouldn't be allowed to take over a championship club who is from overseas unless you want to use that as part of your club.
Fair dues.
Yeah, and I think that.
And David Finner wasn't a failed coach when he arrived. We were told he was the Messiah. As it turned out, he was just a naughty one.
If
He's been a very naughty boy.
if you want to win tickets to the Summer Bash and see my favourites, the Bradford Bulls in action against Halifax, and a preview of the Challenge Cup quarter final, which is going to be on BBC Two and not the main BBC game, as other media outlets have speculated wrongly. Then all you need to do is retweet the link to the shows you're going up after the podcast. You can share and subscribe on YouTube and like our page on Facebook and share, and we'll pick a name at random and we will be in contact with you on a Wednesday, and the RFL will have some tickets for you for the weekend. The Sunbash, that's all you have to do. I think the Bulls fans have gone off to watch Coronation because they've stopped abusing me on Twitter.
Has David Furner made a comment since he's been sacked?
No.
And I don't think he will.
So he'll wait till
No,
he gets back home and
No,
won't.
he waits till the check's clear.
Not unless he signs a non-disclosure agreement.
He
in which
waits
case
till
he
the
won't
check's
say
clear,
anything.
mate, believe me.
Eh?
Once his check's
Oh,
clear,
well,
he
yeah.
might speak.
Yeah.
Right, we will move on. Leeds in crisis. I think I'm more worried than Phil about this situation.
They'll be back.
Anyway, well done the PDRL boys yesterday. Were they?
I say your Leeds, yeah.
Even though I've been,
Am I playing for Leeds, Philip?
They
Magic
won
weekend.
both, didn't they?
we've
Phil,
been
am I-
axed.
am I
We've been
playing for
axed,
the
Gary.
PDRL?
Well, I
We've been
thought-
we're like Ashton Golding. We just can't get in the squad. Anyway.
It's still, I liked it was a secret up until about Tuesday when they, on Wednesday when they announced it.
Hey, by the way, I just want to say to all the Leeds fans, Craig Innes is coming to the game on Thursday.
Is he
Old
playing?
Posty.
Old
Is he
Post.
playing?
Posty's coming.
So
Yeah.
they could do him
Craig
being
Innes
the
great.
I hope
But yeah, Leeds fans, he's coming on Thursday, so
I hope
when you
they've
see him
stuck
around
the cigarette cabinet.
with myself, Maskey, Ian Scott and Craig are getting the heritage numbers from there, so we're around there on Thursday, so you want to come and say hi to Craig. Sensational centre. When I had him in Caminaro outside me, it was an absolute dream. When they said in his own 25 score, he's slinging the 20-yarder, off you go, down the wick pitch,
Why didn't you
50,
pick
60
Wigan?
yards. Because they're overall better players than what we did.
Prediction time. Here on 4020 Live. Right, let's start off with the big one, the one that everyone's dreading to watch on Thursday. Leeds against Castleford. Castleford can't win, Leeds can't win. What say you, Gary Schofield?
Big opening ceremony of the North Stand.
Well, another ceremony of opening of the full stadium now. You know, it should be a great atmosphere. But Mark, as you mentioned, two teams that are just.
Will it be a great atmosphere? I don't think it will.
Oh no,
Be quiet.
it will be. I would say it will be a very sombre, anticipated crowd. I would imagine to see what reaction, what we're going to get from last Saturday. So the game, 4 weeks ago, the drop goal from Dwyer. Leeds had it won. Cass had it won. Leeds managed to do it. Boy, oh boy. You know what? I'm fed up of giving Leeds second chances. I'm going Cass by 10.
Excellent, that means Leeds will win. Fantastic. Leeds by one in Golden Point extra time with a hooker kicking a 40-metre drop.
Oh, Phil, pathetic. Pathetic, Mr. Kaplan.
I've no
There were
idea.
two F's in that pathetic.
I've no idea. There's no form line in either of these two teams at the moment.
I mean,
Richard Shaw.
last week when we did the predictions, we didn't know David Fern was going to get sacked. So by the time we get round to 7:45 on Thursday, at least going to have a new coach, and it could be Sean Wayne.
Could be Darryl Park.
No,
Could be
let's hope it's Sean Wayne. I'm hoping it's Sean Wayne. And I'm not Sean Wayne's agent.
So everything could have changed by then. Jesus, they won't obviously have updated this spreadsheet.
I must be top by now.
Well, I
I've
need
got
to
to be
do
top.
some proper thinking now. I'm going to go for a Leeds win because I saw Castleford in the flesh on Friday and they were rubbish. And the thing I didn't say about the game on Saturday while it was going on is that rather Bradford got through because had Wakefield drawn them. I don't think Bradford can get better than that performance because everything added up for them.
Yeah, it was a perfect storm.
Whereas Leeds can't get much worse.
And had he kicked the goal at the end, they might well have won the game.
So I'm going to go for Leeds narrowly, but I don't think it's going to be pretty. But I don't think it needs to be pretty. Richard Agar, Sir Richard Agar, he's back on Twitter. Got to see him back on Twitter this week. I've got Leeds by 2.
If Castleford don't win this week, I'm going to say it now, the season is over. It's over. They're not only before, but they're 2 points off the playoffs at the minute. It might seem, and they've got all these players to come back. They could still win Super League. But Daryl Powell, how many times has he gone to the well, criticises, I want a reaction. If you don't get one this week, I'm starting to... Richard said to me when they lost the grand final, that's it, Cass won't win anything. And I thought he's just been a Wakefield biased git.
Yeah. Everyone.
Right. But I'm starting to think he might be right. Daryl Powell put together the dream team to win Super League, and it didn't win Super League when it was supposed to. And that team has never been the same again. I know they've got big players missing. They need a performance. They have to win on Thursday. I think they will win. I'm going to go Castleford by 8. Right, Huddersfield, Hull KR. This is a decent game on Friday.
Should be. Huddersfield, half decent against St Helens, but as I said about St Helens, it's a top performance on and off from there. Hull KR, well, what you get for Hull KR, you get brilliance or you get ordinariness from them, don't you? But I just think Hull KR Rovers, I think they'll be remember that performance what they put in there about 4 or 5 weeks ago, which after half an hour the players gave in. I would imagine Tim Sheens will be reminded of that performance. The supporters went a lot better from there. So I'm going for Hull KR to maintain the good away form. Won't repeat the performance against Huddersfield like they did 4 or 5 weeks ago. I'm going Hull KR to win. I'm going Hull KR to win by 7.
Well done, Len.
For Huddersfield's season not to have been over this week, they have to win this game and stay within touching distance of potentially the final. And I think on the back of the defensive performance they gave against Saints, irrespective of whether you think Saints should have won by more, I thought that was a really decent performance by Huddersfield. And I don't know if Hull KR can do back-to-back at the moment, so I'm going Huddersfield by 12.
Richard?
I haven't got a clue on this one. I just do not have a clue. There's nothing between these two teams, the league table. There's nothing. I'm just going to go for Hull KR by 4, and I've got no real reason to do it.
I just look at Huddersfield, couldn't beat half a Wakefield team. I'll only played for 20 minutes. Only played for 20 minutes at Warrington, got spanked there. Yeah, they kept it close against Saints. I think that was more down to Saints being lacklustre than Huddersfield being great, got to be honest. The Saints, if Huddersfield play for that 20-minute spell against Wakey and Warrington, they do it for 80 minutes, they'll win. They would win pretty much every week. They can't do it, and I think there's a few cracks being papered over at Huddersfield. They've got a few key players that might be moving on at the end of the season. I'm going for Hull KR. I think Hull KR showed some balls winning on Saturday in the Cup. I think they'll show some guts again and win this weekend. I'm going Hull KR by 7. 7. St Helens, Salford.
This will be quick.
Well, Salford seem to play pretty well away from home, don't they? But Saints, they just keep marching on. We thought Albrook at time might rest senior players, but he's not doing it. He keeps picking the same squad week in and week out. Not too many. Not too many.
He's giving some of the kids a chance.
Yeah, not too many though. Don't worry about that. Not too many, but I just think the juggernaut will keep going from there, and I think Saints will win this quite easily. I'm going Saints by 24.
I don't think Saints will win it easily because I think this is a make or break game for Salford in the same way that it was against Huddersfield. The excuses are out there now, so they can't use that again. Either Salford are going to be team fulfilling potential this year, or they've already accepted that it's breaking up. So I think they will throw something into it. But this Saints team looks as near invincible as I've seen in the modern era at the moment. That they've always got somebody that can do something to pull them out the mire. So I think Saints by 10.
Like Phil, I think this will be one of those games which is probably closer than you expect. So when I say this now, Saints will win by about 30. But Saints will win, and I will go Saints by 18.
I'm reading at Scoy's chat earlier about if it's a fractured camp at Salford, then they're beyond hope. They may as well give up now, sell the players, shut up the doors, and go home. Just don't bother. I hope you're
Ring
wrong.
up Rob Elson
I hope you're
and
wrong.
say, what new beginning?
I also think St Helens this week, despite Justin Albrook smiling, yeah, we're in the next round of the cup, I reckon they'll have got a right doing today at training for that performance last night. Wasn't good enough. Wasn't good enough. A good team would have beaten them. I think we see the bounce back of that this weekend. I think we see an emphatic win. If Salford are fractured in the dressing room,
And they are.
and that's what you're leading,
I'm
I'm
telling
going
you.
with you. Your sources
I'm
are
telling
generally
you.
very, very good.
I'm telling you.
I'm going Saints by 34. I think it could be a landslide. I stand by all the Salford.
Salford, I better get up.
Whenever I pick Salford, we always
Exactly.
lose.
Well, we all picked him last week.
Yeah, so sort of. Catalan Wigan. You let that bit out, won't you?
No.
Catalan Wigan.
That's
Well,
what happens when you talk
it's-
to people.
In the new camp.
It's breaking new histories and new beginnings, new history. Let's hope we have brand new performances and that they're putting a great show for the greatest game of all, the Catalans and Wigan Warriors. I was very impressed by Wigan against Warrington in the Challenge Cup. The Catalan Dragons, they want to put on the show. I would have, both trophies they'll be on parade from there. Let's just hope they do the game justice. After Wigan's performance against Warrington, I think that'll be a confidence booster. I'm going for the Warrington to beat Catalans by 10.
I hope the first thing we get is a record crowd for a Super League game. I think we will. I think they'll sell more, we'll have already sold more than 25,000 tickets, which I think is a massive boost for the game. And any rugby league supporters that go on Twitter and say the stadium's half empty when it holds 100,000 people need to be full swept
No, the only
by
negative
Robert
was-
Elson himself. I think this is such a prestigious event for the Dragons that they will be absolutely pumped up for this. This will bring back memories of that day at Wembley, which caused them to be at the Camp Nou anyway. I think they'll have the bulk of the crowd behind them, and the Catalonians are fanatical about anybody that represents them and wears their. And if they keep their discipline in that white hot atmosphere, like they did at Wembley, I think they will win. But I don't know, 12.
12.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Catalans as well. Wigan season is over now, isn't it? I think we've.
No, I think they still make the 5. Make the 5, definitely.
I'll go Catalans. And Catalans by 8.
I think this is a game, right, as a neutral, and I say neutral, no anti-Wigan bias here. I think as a rugby league fan, we need Catalans to win this game, because if they win it, and it's a great event, there's every chance it might happen again next year. And it might become a bit of a...
More investors might want to be involved in the sport.
I think this is the biggest game in the rugby league season, and I mean that.
Yes,
It's
I
going to
agree.
give us a record crowd. It's going to be brilliant. I'm gutted I can't go. I think everyone at the Dragons, this has got to have been a focus. This has got to have been a focus. They must win this game. Wigan had a really tough game. Can they back that up? They've got Warrington again next week at the Magic. When do they prioritise that? Look, they could play really well against Catalan and lose anyway.
And they've got
I'm
all
going
the
the
travel
Dragons.
element.
I'm going the Dragons. I think the Dragons will win. Again, Joe drop goal. They're going to win. I'm going 7 again. I'm going 7. Dragons by 7. Right, London Wakefield. Repeat of the opening day when London beat Wakefield, legend.
Yeah, it was, but what I did, I questioned what sort of attitude Wakefield to go down there. I think they'll certainly have a different attitude this time, and they know what London's all about. They know what that service and stadium's all about from there. So, yeah, but London, they'll give a good account themselves. This would have been one game where I would imagine Danny Ward would have ticked the box and saying, right, okay, this is a massive possibility for 2 points, but I just feel as though Wakefield, the way they're playing, good leadership from all the senior players from there, they'll have the right attitude this time. I don't think they'll easy. I don't think they'll have it all their own way. I'll go Wakefield by 10.
I don't think it'll be easy either. I think the big advantage for London is that they've had the week off,
Yeah, bang on.
which at this stage in the season is massive. You can really prepare.
Oh dear.
Is it Sean White?
That's James Furner.
Let's put you back on his list. But I still think that the one thing that Chris Chester wants out of his side is a response when they haven't played well. I don't think they played well this week, and I think that again might have been not taking the opposition they were playing as serious enough as they should have done. He will be no doubt extolling all week what went wrong in week 1, and that they just couldn't live up to the hype. And it wasn't that they lost that game, it was that they were ahead by 12 points on 2 occasions and couldn't close it out. So I think that Chris Chester will be impressed upon his guys that they have to right a wrong this week, and they will by 6.
We just picked numbers at random.
Of
don't
course we
we?
did.
And bizarrely, the number I've picked is the same number I picked in week 1. And I'm still sticking with it. I think Wakefield will obviously have learned from the first week. Obviously have taken something out of sneaking past witness, as they did on Friday. And will have been given a kick at the backside this week. And I think they will win, as they did in week 1, and was wrong, by 22 points.
Week off for London, huge, absolutely huge.
At this stage of the
I
season.
thought Wakefield would go to London week 1 and batter them. I thought they had no chance, London. You know what? I think London are going to win this week. I said last week I think Wakefield can win Super League, and I still maintain they can win Super League. But it's a long old season, and they're playing busted, Wakefield. You can't. They're playing busted badly. You know, they struggle to beat Widnes. They struggle to beat Widnes. I don't think the team's going to be too much different going down to the capital. London know what it takes to beat this team. I think London will win it. Be tight. London by 2.
I tell you what, with that prediction, you better be careful on the golf course if you're playing with Michael Carter tomorrow. He
Not
won't shout
playing
for.
this week, doesn't matter.
He won't shout for if the golf ball comes near you.
Last one, Warrington Hull.
Yeah. Warrington, they weren't impressive at all yesterday against Wigan. I felt Wigan were very, very unlucky, to be honest with you. And the black and whites, well, they'll want to keep hanging around the top 5.
They conceded 143 points in their last 2 games with Warrington.
Yeah, I would imagine that will be reminded to them all week by Rhinos this week. But can they change it around? No, I don't think so, to be honest with you, from there. Warrington, they seem to have got the wool over the black and whites. I'm going Warrington by 16.
I think Steve Price said all the right things after they beat Wigan on Sunday. I'm not sure behind closed doors he would have felt exactly the same. I think he knew they hung on and they have to be better. And I think what you said about Justin Holbrook, whipping them up, I think Steve Price will have been doing that this week. Too many of his star names didn't perform the way he wants them to perform. I can't get a line on Hull at the moment. Hull can be brilliant or atrocious. And I have no idea which one's turning up this week, but I'll go Warrington to win by 12. Could be anything.
We're all going for very similar numbers because it is that kind of game where Warrington will probably not ease the victory but win by a comfortable margin in the end. As we mentioned earlier, Hull didn't have to be brilliant to beat Cass, they just did what they did to beat what was in front of them. To take nothing away from Hull's performance at all. But I think Warrington will win, obviously, and they will win by 14 points.
We saw Scott Taylor after the game at the weekend, and he made a big thing about it being the cup, and that mentally refreshed and switched everyone back on. Back to the league this week. We've seen Hull being very weak. Once they get beat, they get well beat, and I think they'll get well beat again. I'm sorry to say it. I think Warrington, they know they can beat Hull. They'll play with a little bit more confidence. I'm not sure. I don't think you can draw a line through that line of form last week. They beat Cass, that's all they had to do. We said it the week before, they left players out to win that game. I'm not sure they play that well. I think Warrington will win. I think the only thing that might keep it reasonably close is Warrington have a habit of easing up when they get in front. They haven't done that against Hull last 2 at 24 Warrington. Prove me wrong, Hull. Prove me wrong.
And the other big game, Greece and Norway in the World Cup.
Greece and
qualifying.
Norway, yeah. Well, we won't go into that now.
Greece.
Good luck to Greece, good luck to Norway. Right, that's it. Remember, you can win tickets. How do they do it quickly?
Like and share the video on Facebook, like our Facebook page, subscribe on YouTube, retweet on Twitter, and we'll send a link out with the podcast as well. And send out, and we'll pick a winner on Wednesday, and there'll be lots more rugby league content available on Forty20 TV over the next few days.
And a new magazine out the end of this week, which will
Most important.
include the chance to win tickets to be in Club Wembley for the Challenge Cup.
Very good. Well done, Ledge. Thanks to Phil. Thanks to Richard. Thanks to Kevin Sinfield. I'm sure Leeds are in your message for another week. We'll be back next week. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in. We'll see you next week.